I don't know the name of the beach.
Where was it?
I believe somewhere in the Cape.
And Katie McLaughlin is in that photo, correct?
Yes, along with a bunch of other friends.
Of course, there are other friends, but
Miss Giannetti, please no more, of course.
Of course, Your Honor. With regard to that photo, once again, you are right next to Katie McLaughlin. Were you not? Right in back of her?
She's in front of me, yes, and the mute.
Oh, I gotta stop that. I think I just heard the attorney laugh. Were you laughing too?
I was. That was funny.
It was funny. Bev
She has
is
personality.
Oh man, Bev, this was great today, wasn't it? We had 3 cross examinations. Attorney Bederow is here.
Hello.
Yes, you're here.
I'm here.
Yeah. I'm looking at myself. I'm like, wait, am I on mute again?
Yeah. No, I'm
you
here.
got me. You just played a joke on me. It's good.
I'm well rested and ready to go.
So what did you think about today? I mean, it was you think Caitlin's gonna be the big cross, and then the other 2 were just like, oh my god, they're even worse.
No, this Julie Nagel to me is the epitome of, yet again, peak Lally in his decision making and trial strategy. I can't believe what we heard from her today, and I can't believe that was a DA witness with the way this case has been going, knowing that what's going to come out on cross, and how I get ostensibly he's of the view that this could advance the case because, oh my God, there's the body lying right there. That's powerful if true. And of course it would fix the timeline that they want and all of that. And then you get to the end of the cross-examination. And if I understand what happened on memory, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I heard today was that she's sitting in there. By the way, the one person not pounding White Claws, so good for her. You know, she's a Mick Light girl, apparently.
Mick Ultra, I believe.
There you go.
Yeah,
right.
Close enough.
That's important. So, and if I understand this correctly, she's staring out the window, and wouldn't you know it, there's this black SUV, which I wonder whose car that is supposed to be. It's kind of creepy crawling outside as she just happens to be serendipitously looking out of the window, and it goes from A to B to B to C to C to D. And this is around the time that she's texting her her brother for a ride, come pick me up. And then somehow in that time period where the brother comes and she goes outside, the SUV is gone because, you know, O'Keefe is now dead on the lawn, apparently. But something happens where she tells her brother, I'm actually going to stay. So thanks for coming, but see you later. I'm going to go back inside. She goes back inside, pounds a few more Mick Ultras and gets drunk or whatever. And then when it's time to go, she's going to catch a ride with Jennifer McCabe, of all people. And off we go. And wouldn't you know, from the far side of the car, the driver's side, I suppose, she is driving by and sees, I think originally what was described as a black object.
The black blob or something.
Well,
Yeah, black object.
I think the blob came later. I think it's
black object.
I'm wrong. Someone will chime in.
Yeah.
I think it started as the black blob, which she noted was unique because she said to her friend sitting there, and she said, what are you talking about? And I guess it wasn't important enough at that point. So they continued going on. Then the next day, holy shit, right where the black object that she saw was, it turns out to be a dead police officer on the very lawn of the house that she was getting wasted the night before. And nothing seems to strike any decency or anything to report this because, you know, why would I do that? She keeps this to herself, I think, for, I want to say, 6 or 7 months, during which time period, out of nowhere, her good friend JJ, right? That's how
Auntie JJ. Auntie JJ.
Auntie JJ says, by the way, show me those text messages between, you and your brother, which of course will go right to the timeline that they're all going to need. There's apparently no further discussion about the object that was on the lawn being John O'Keefe. Just give me the text messages. How freaking weird is that? I assume we'll talk about that in length. And then later, when only after the defense makes a big stink show, I think in late September, a public, argument in the media and in court, it becomes public because it's a big case about nobody saw anything. Days later, enter into this bizarre scene here. Enter stage left Proctor, of course, who interviews this Nagel, who then tells him it was a black blob. Okay, interesting. So it's a big black blob. The inference still being somehow they're claiming that it is going to be the dead body. And then it just sits like there for 2 years. And then lo and behold, today, after all this time, I guess in a prep session with Lally right before trial, one of the few that he does, apparently, she says not only was it a blob, a big black blob, but it was about 5 or 6 feet long, which just happened to be, I guess 6 feet is what John O'Keefe was, apparently. And she didn't feel the need to share any of these details prior to today. So here comes the big star witness. They put her on the stand, and first words out of her mouth are, how you doing, Lally? And this is such a shit show that each day outdoes the last. And I don't know how any juror is going to credit, oh my God, that must have been O'Keefe that she saw at, approximately whatever time it was, and not be more concerned about what the defense has been saying about she called her brother, went outside after seeing an SUV, told him no, went back inside, and then came back out with McCabe, saw this, claims to have told people, didn't tell anyone the next day. McCabe says, give me all the messages between you and your brother, which is just totally weird. And then her story morphs today after speaking to Lally that the big black blob, which used to be just a black object, is now 6 feet long. On top of that, as if it's not bad enough for her, she also is another one who can't explain where Colin Albert went. Now, she has a timeline. I wrote this down, 11:30 to 11:45, which is way off pace. But she's another one who says, I don't know how he got out of there. And the only thing that came to my mind, I don't know if you're like Harry Potter people or not, but did this kid apparate out of the house? Because how did nobody literally see him or talk to him? These are all friends and relatives. And no one can explain where he went. I mean, literally.
I think you brought up a good point.
Every now and then.
That about Chris Albert and his wife. And I think that this plays much more into the, Colin Albert, because it just seemed like they all had their story straight. And now it's not so straight when they think the feds might know. Right. Like, I think they're worried about perjury, aren't they? Aren't they worried about?
Should be.
I mean, so I think that's why they're not being so specific about Colin now, because individually they're worried. I think that's what it is, right?
Well, they should be worried, but I mean, this girl today with this evolving story, and also body language. We've talked about this before. Body language to me is a big deal, and I've always said they made the right move, taking the crappier courtroom so that everyone could see. When somebody is speaking a lie, body language can be more important when they're a good liar. And I think, for example, before we get to the point now, Brian Albert is a perfect example. He's very well spoken, very calm in his presentation, very folksy. But when he starts getting all shifty eyed and looking at the floor and doing that, you can kind of see some patterns. This one today at the end, now you could only see her upper body, but you could tell that one of her legs was going a mile a minute, like her motor. She was going to fly right out of that chair because she was sitting like this.
You
I
could
mean, she
hear her
was-
breathing. She
you
was
could
like,
hear her
oh.
breathing. She's even getting a little blotchy red, which, that could be nerves. I don't want to overread into it. But her motor was running when she started getting crossed about this. And I know there's a lot of people who think anyone who listens to the stuff that we talk about, we're all conspiracy theorists and crazy and wacky. I assure you, I'm quite normal. Analyze this just from the way I see it. I don't really care what happens, in the sense that whatever the truth is, the truth is. I think she's getting framed, frankly, but still, if she wasn't, then I think she ought to be held accountable. So I'm just calling balls and strikes as I see it. And I can't imagine how anyone can have anything other than the takeaway from today, that this Nagel story is so bad. But the worst part is she's doing more damage to others that matter to the DA's case and herself, like McCabe. I mean, if there wasn't already enough that McCabe is going to get just crushed on, what possible explanation is that woman ever going to offer about, I need your text messages about the scheduled ride you had with your brother, other than to mess around and screw up the timeline and at least know what you said and to deal with it that way? There's no reason for it. And so the story, and now she's also going to be examined about what did Nagel say in the car about the black object. And, did it occur to you the next day? Oh my God, that could have been John O'Keefe. Why didn't you say anything at 6:30 in the morning? Oh my God, the girl told me last night. I look, to me, this is 100% abject bullshit. I don't think it passes the laugh test. And they're making it worse every day, calling these witnesses. It's just,
I think there's a good chance it ends this week. I know it sounds crazy, but I have a hunch. I'm not sure. Like I said, this is a good comment right here. Yannetti asked a sudden out of left field question to Caitlin. Did you take Chloe back to Easton at 1:45 a.m.? It took me a while to appreciate that question. The Alberts say that Chloe was asleep. What did you think about that?
It could be one of two things, because the easy answer is, and the more ominous answer is, he may know something, and it could be a setup. I don't know if that's the case or not, but the other thing is, sometimes a good cross-examiner, you read the room, you pounce, you might take a few chances where there's no harm in whatever answer you get. And sometimes you do just go for it out of left field. I think that's probably, I'm guessing, what that was, as opposed to we have a story. Because I think if they had a story, real proof, I think you would know that. It would have come out in the last several months. But or they're just literally playing the long game where they're holding, and it's just going to be a bombshell later. But I think that was just Yannetti having a good time, sensing that there's no harm in whatever answer I get, and just go at her a little bit, because she's, a little rattled. I mean, I thought she came in pretty smug, but going back to body language, and again, putting aside the some of the loons who are saying, well, I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what you're talking about when you're watching and you see a witness turn into a ghost and their eyes go darting across from side to side. And you can go back and watch, but I even made a note of it when Caitlin was presented, or was beginning to get examined about the college visit. She looked like she was going to throw up, as opposed to the other trips and things that they went on. I thought they left a little on the table with her, actually. I thought they could have drilled deeper on the college thing, only because if they're college roommates, odds, or at least possible, I don't know the answer, those people may not have been high school friends from Canton. And I think she said they weren't, which means, well, how in the hell did you connect with Caitlin? It has to be direct, meaning Katie. And why would the two of you, and only the two of you from Canton, be having her drive out an hour to visit me in college, unless you're, friends?
Exactly. It's obvious they're friends. I mean, it's just undeniable.
And they make such a big deal out of it. I don't understand it. They just don't get it. It's really, to be honest with you, if Katie had said it, accurately, and if Caitlin had said it accurately, I think the defense argument about Katie would get much weaker. It doesn't mean that Katie was reliable, because it wasn't really corroborated based on other things that happened. But if you're going to make this argument that she's somehow biased, Katie herself and her friend Caitlin, made it worse by just continuing for days to argue over this nuance between friend and acquaintance. And a jury is only going to be left to say, if you're willing to fight me on that, what's the big deal? Is there something else I don't know? What am I missing? And, I think they made it worse. Again, they don't adjust on the fly. I don't know how Lally doesn't prep Caitlin to say, cut the shit. This is stupid. Okay. There's a million pictures of you. It's okay to be friends. Just tell the truth. You're friends. You don't hang out on an everyday basis. You've seen her 10 times in the last, 6 years or whatever. Who cares? Move on. And they don't. It's amazing. They don't.
Yeah. It's been interesting that they can, they double down on that stuff.
Mhm.
And Tristan Morris today. I mean, he couldn't even tell. Knowing that he had to be at work at 3 a.m. He couldn't even, and that he went to the waterfall and had a beer or whatever too, which is kind of weird after you're going to work. And then he couldn't say between 8 p.m. and 3 a.m. He got really.
Well, he's not the brains of the operation.
Clearly.
He is what he is. And if this is petty, fine, tell me. But could you shave before you come in if you're not wearing a real beard? I mean, we've seen the gum chewing, we've seen the slippers, we've seen how you doing. We've seen, this guy. Look, I understand.
I'm surprised he wasn't wearing a hat like me right now.
Well, I get he's not a suit and tie guy. I get it. It's fine.
if I was going to court like that and everyone is televised, I'd be clean. I'd be in a suit and tie. Not even a question. That's common sense.
Yeah, it's just, again, these are prosecution witnesses on a serious case. These are supposed to be innocent people who are outraged at being falsely accused, and somebody who died is close to them or somewhat close to them. And it looks like coming to court for them is no different than waking up in the morning and getting a quart of milk. I got, what do you have to do today? Get milk, get dinner, and go to court. It's just an errand. I don't get it. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but appearances do matter. Bruins just scored, by the way, so early.
Nice.
Okay.
Good for the Bruins right now.
Yeah. So I think substantively though, his inability to even attempt to lock down a serious time frame and the way he did, I think he comes off the way you expected he would. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's anywhere near the most critical of all of this. But
who do you think was the worst witness out of the three today? Caitlin Albert, Tristan, or Julie Nagel?
Oh, 100% Nagel. Not even close. That matters because that matters. That is again, think the long game here. It doesn't matter because this Nagel kid is not a great witness. She's probably not the brightest bulb either, whatever, but her story makes no sense. But it's the collateral damage that she's going to cause. The jury isn't going to be thinking about her. They're going to be thinking that she's whatever she is. What they're going to be thinking about, what the hell is Jennifer McCabe doing, asking for text messages, and why did this story go on and on and on and turn into a 6-foot guy today? Why did Proctor only interview her 3 or 4 days after? And this is something that they'll ask Proctor. I don't think they really got into it with Nagel. I mean, I might have if they were allowed to. Is how did it even come to be that you were sitting across a table from Proctor? Who instigated that? Who put that in motion? When was it put in motion? I mean, if the prosecution had credible evidence that interview had been scheduled prior to the hearing where they're talking about no bodies or nobody saw a body, that might dilute it a little bit, right? Because it doesn't sound as planned. And so I think when it comes to Proctor, assuming he testifies, they'll get into that. And the bottom line is Nagel was unquestionably another one of the many unmitigated disasters, because she puts the person we talked about last night, who is probably the most critical prosecution witness, now has another odd fact that any reasonable person, I think, would tell you is completely unexplainable unless you tell the truth, and the truth ain't
Not good. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not good. Jennifer McCabe and just revealing about that text message fiasco where she wanted to look at her phone. We got a couple comments about Aiden tonight. Like, apparently Aiden, I haven't heard anything. I've been live since 5:30, so I don't really know what's going on, but people are saying that his channel has been suspended on YouTube for a week due to the McAlbert complaints, that he had gone after the McAlberts about something. And I don't know enough about it. And there's also this comment that keeps coming up. Mike, do you remember Aiden's trip to Easton? I actually do not. Don't remember that. And Cynthia says the only one home was a big dog flipping out.
There you go.
Apparently he must have gone to that house at one point, and people are speculating maybe Chloe's there. I guess Sean McDonough was talking about it tonight as well.
Well, there's your
weird.
answer from
Yeah.
10 minutes ago. You have information that there's a large barking dog. Why not take a shot and see if she just gives it up and says it's the elusive Chloe?
Exactly. Julie Nagel went today. I have a feeling tomorrow we might see Ryan Nagel, the brother. I wonder if he'll be any better.
Well, isn't he the one who saw allegedly Karen Reed just kind of sitting there
Alone in the car.
alone, but not doing anything nefarious?
Yeah, basically waiting for John to come out of the house, it seems
The
like.
problem they'll have is, if I have the timeline correct, if you try to put this all together, and let's assume, by the way, everyone's telling the truth for this point. If she calls her brother, she's waiting for her brother. Around this time, she sees Karen Reed out, allegedly, the SUV. Let's just say what we think she's referring to. And that SUV is gone when she goes out to meet her brother, which means at that point, theoretically, O'Keefe would be dead on the lawn. The black object is on the lawn at that point, presumably. It's not like Karen would have come back. People would know that, I suspect. So that doesn't make any sense if the brother says, actually, I did see her while I was waiting, and she was just sitting there alone doing something. And then the question becomes, where is John O'Keefe? And there's no reason to believe, if she's just sitting there doing nothing, he can't really be lying dead on the lawn.
Right.
Seems unlikely.
Maybe they won't call Ryan. People are saying in the comments that Yannetti said it's not Ryan Nagel, that it's a DNA guy.
Okay,
the DNA dog expert.
Somebody's going to call Ryan because he'll be a defense witness.
Yeah, exactly. That's we have this list that we saw that was leaked. I don't know where it came from, but it seemed very accurate except for a couple people so far. And the couple people are Higgins, Jennifer McCabe, because they should have already been called according to this list, especially Higgins. He was up there. So if Ryan Nagel doesn't get called tomorrow, I think it's a sign that they're worried. They're worried about what they might say. I don't know.
Well, they must be. Well, just finishing up on Ryan Nagel, the concern I would have for the DA is if he sees Karen Reed alone, and let's assume hypothetically he can identify her. I don't know if he can, if he's just going to say it's a woman in a car, but again, assume it's her. If there's no man in the car, then there's only three possibilities of where John O'Keefe can be. He can be the black object, which seems extremely unlikely, virtually impossible given this timeline and what everybody's doing. He could be wandering around the street aimlessly, which seems unlikely, because why would she just be sitting there? Or I would suggest to you in this hypothetical, although not necessarily provable other than by inference and perhaps common sense and process of elimination, maybe he's in the house.
Exactly. I think this is where they get this. someone made a comment here. They said that Yannetti actually said DNA and then some 34 Fairview witnesses,
Well,
which would be
that could
Ryan
be Ryan
Nagel.
He's at
And that could be the other kid that was with Ryan Nagel. There were other people with Ryan Nagel too. So I think that's where it could get very interesting. Very interesting. We'll see. I mean, we've seen how unprepared they are. How they don't.
They would be DA witnesses, right? So you don't want to believe. I know we're in Lally world here, so nothing makes any sense. But a real prosecutor actually thinks about whether, if I call a witness, it helps or doesn't help, and prepares. And it's clear that he hasn't prepared a lot of witnesses about a lot of things. But could he possibly just be calling this Ryan Nagel cold to essentially help the defense prove by inference and common sense, or at least strengthen their argument that John O'Keefe was in the house, and at the same time that the Nagel story and timeline makes no sense at all? Now, because the interesting thing, I'd be curious to hear what Ryan Nagel says, is what was going on outside at the moment your sister came outside. Was the SUV there or not? Did you see it creep up or not? Just to kind of synchronize all of this and to see how much he really contradicts what his sister said.
And they may have flipped. We're hearing, here it is in the chat again. And the friend, we'll see. We don't know. We have no idea.
We don't know, but a word of caution: if they flipped, why would the DA call them?
I know.
I'm trying to be realistic
so
here.
Maybe that's the sign. If we don't see them,
that would be much more.
Are we going to see Higgins tomorrow? I mean, Higgins has been mentioned so many times now. They got to bring. I think they're going to bring it. If they don't bring out Higgins and McCabe this week, something's up. In my opinion, because they're on the list. They've been mentioned numerous times. It's going to be interesting to see who they actually call here going forward, because there's several people that could have flipped.
Well,
we know that.
Let me throw something else out to you. Are they going to call Colin?
Right.
I mean, at this point, if you believe the DA's case and their witnesses, Colin is as protected and home free and's got nothing to worry about, because he wasn't there. He left. Nobody can tell you how he did leave, but he sure as hell wasn't there at the time that O'Keefe and Karen Reed would have been there. The one thing they're consistent about is he was in and out in a matter of minutes. Can't tell you where he went, but he couldn't have been there. By the way,
someone said that. Yeah, this is a good comment. They said the brother is on the Commonwealth list, but the driver is on the defense list. I don't know if it was the driver or the passenger. I saw that he was on the Commonwealth list earlier, not just the brother. But that would be. I think there is. We're gonna have to look at that. This is gonna get interesting. It's gonna get very interesting.
Well, I think also just to go back to Colin Albert for a minute, what would make it interesting is if he testifies, he's going to have to say why he came so quickly and left. This whole text message thing, which may or may not be real. I feel like I don't know if it's real or not, but it's missing a timeline, on that text exchange. And in light of what McCabe was doing, apparently with the other witness, you at least have to wonder. But I think the interesting thing to ask Colin will be, tell us when you left, and did you say goodbye to anyone? I mean, because I imagine he's going to say he did, but they've already all said that he didn't. He just got up and left. And maybe it is that the DA does not intend to call him, and that they're just going to let these other people do the dirty work for him, so he doesn't have to answer any tough questions about, his injuries on his knuckles and everything else, and his what apparently looks like just lovely demeanor generally.
Someone asked me, Mike, how would Ryan Nagel flip? His story is his story. It helps Karen Reed whether he testifies for Commonwealth or defense. I'm just meaning kind of whether the Commonwealth calls him as a witness or the defense. That's really
I don't think he's a candidate for flipping as a legal term of art. Yeah. I mean, he's just a plain good old fashioned witness, unless he initially tried to do her dirty and wants to come clean.
That's the other thing too. Mm-hmm. And I'm all like, some people have noted too that some of these people, like Ryan Nagel, and I think the other one, they're both on both lists. So it's like, who's going to call them first?
I don't see the benefit of the DA calling them if he's going to say that I saw a woman who had to have been Karen Reed sitting there doing nothing, not moving forward, not moving backwards. And at some point she just left and she wasn't panicking or anything. And the defense will argue, yeah, she was waiting for John O'Keefe to get back to her because he went inside to tell her what to do. And I don't know how this will help the DA in any way. I mean, again, do the cost benefit analysis. How do they move their case forward by calling Nagel? What does that get? I mean, Ryan,
I know that. I mean,
does
every
that
day
do?
we say that though.
Yeah.
And then they call these feet. Like you said, he's leading with his
leading with
face.
his chin again. Yeah. Yep.
It's just like he sticks his chin right out there and says, "Hit me again, hit me." And maybe he likes the dominatrix type. I mean, he likes to get beat up. Lally. I mean, that's what's interesting, that if they do bring in the DNA dog guy, I mean, that doesn't really prove. It's funny, they're going to bring a DNA dog guy in. It's like he's trying to disprove the.
You just stole my thunder. It's another in the long line of I will, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he's going to give a summation and say, ladies and gentlemen, Brian,
wasn't there.
Paul, and Albert are not guilty.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I get it in the sense that he's trying to push back on the defense, but he should worry about his own house first before he worries what's going on in the defense house. I mean, he's done nothing he's clearly on the defensive, as somebody just noted in a comment. People see that. Absolutely. Wegmans flavored water. It's great. Whoever said that, I recommend it. Blackberry. But all kidding aside, he's putting forth witnesses who are doing nothing other than trying to say the Alberts are good. The Alberts are good. They didn't do anything. And here's what's amazing. So, and this came up earlier too, in some of the Twitter stuff, a lot of people were discussing the whole idea of this third party culprit defense. And what if they don't get it? Will they get it? And what's interesting is right now, in a literal sense, literally speaking, there isn't one shred of evidence that John O'Keefe went in the house. Every witness has, I'm not saying you have to credit these people, but I'm saying literally there is no evidentiary basis to conclude that he went in the house right now. Now that could change based upon defense evidence, electronic evidence, and all of that. So, but even if the defense was unable to establish and get the quote unquote right to argue a third party culpability defense, it really doesn't matter, because what all that means is you can sit there and point fingers and say, you know, one of these Alberts did it, that guy did it, that's not even really what they need to do. Their argument is she was framed by dirty cops protecting a very powerful family, and the very powerful family was part of it. That's not a third party. That's coming in no matter what. You can't stop them from doing that. And the critical thing is the evidence that they have, even if they can't literally place O'Keefe in the house, they have how long to die in the cold, butt dials, deleted calls, throwing away phones, ignoring letters from the government saying, don't do this. McCabe saying, give me your cell phone. Having this girl claim, oh, I saw an object, a blob. But so they have all of this that has nothing to do with whether they use a third party culpability defense or not. They still are going to argue that the cops are corrupt, that they fixed the case, they didn't secure the evidence, solo cups and all that stuff. So none of this is going to really matter. I mean, some could argue that they've taken on a burden too high, which is risky, and that the jury says, well, you didn't prove the Alberts did it, and you don't want the jury to get distracted because they don't have to prove that. And I assume these are very accomplished lawyers. I assume Jackson will do the summation and he'll say and explain this in English that we don't have to prove that. It doesn't matter whether you agree or not. The evidence is da-da-da-da-da and reasonable doubt and all of that.
Someone asked, why wasn't Grant at court today? We've heard that he doesn't want to get served because Jessica Machado is filing charges against him. So I'm pretty sure it's because Grant doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of all his.
He probably got
there.
some excellent legal advice
Yeah.
from his mother on that.
If for once she gave good legal advice.
Oh yeah.
Just me said, do you think Karen will take the stand? What do you think about that?
No.
No.
I mean,
No reason to, not right now.
0%, although with this caveat. So that's one of the rare choices at a trial that exclusively is the right of the client. Lawyers have strong feelings, and usually when you have a intelligent client and real lawyers, they will work together and agree in what they're doing. But ultimately, she'll have to be asked on the record, do you want to testify? And she'll say no. But putting all those disclaimers aside, why in the hell, other than what we talked about weeks ago, where in Wendy world that means she's guilty, put all that nonsense aside, why would she ever testify when she's going to win? And trials are, especially when you're a defendant, you're in the business of lowering risk, and you have to assess risk probability. And if you're already 99% where you think you need to be, why would you put her up there under the rare chance that they start screaming and yelling and she gets twisted into a knot and gets cross-examined about what she said, with I hit him, to be candid, get potentially cross-examined about the interview that she did on Nightline, which I think was a mistake. She shouldn't have done that. Didn't say the worst things in the world, but that can come back and bite you in the rear end. Things that she might have told other people, your feelings about O'Keefe, explain those texts. Why even give that any oxygen? There's no need to. They have a very weak case at this point against her. The defense has a very strong case anyway without her. So I think the only person that would be less likely or should testify less likely than her is Donald Trump and what's going on right now over here. I don't think there's any chance that she'll testify. These lawyers are too smart. She's too smart, and there's no need. Oh, silence.
I don't think there's any need at this point. No need at this point.
No.
Definitely no need.
No way. And also, the other reason sometimes clients testify, sometimes you have a need if you have to establish a fact or evidence and there's no other source. So sometimes when you're dealing in a self-defense case where, somebody shot someone, but I had to because they were coming at me, you have to get that out there about why it happened. And if you don't testify, there's no evidence. And if there's no evidence, then you can't consider it legally. So, but what fact is out there that she could establish? I mean, in theory, she could testify and say, I saw him go in the house. That would be a fact that you would say, I'd like to get in there. But if you're, again, cost benefit analysis, do you let her testify so you get evidence where she says a guy went in the house versus all that? No, I wouldn't. And I don't think these guys who've been doing this too long at clearly a very high level, all three of them, would tell her there's no reason to do this. On the other hand, it's not like you expect that a skilled cross-examiner would be coming after her, but I still wouldn't do it.
No, I love how the defense keeps up bringing up the word acquaintances.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because they're trying the case in their theme and they're thematic and trying to tie everything they're doing and connecting witness to witness, connecting their theory, marshaling evidence, even though they're not supposed to be doing that. And this is why, as I said previously, they're playing chess and the DA is playing checkers. They're not even close to the same level of capability. It's I mean, the skill difference between the lawyers in this case from the defense and the prosecution is astronomical.
Yeah.
It's not, stop the fight kind of thing. It's just not even close in the difference between the way they strategize, between their intelligence, in my view, but certainly in their courtroom presence, the way they connect, presumably with the jury. We can't see the jury, but they're personable. I mean, I think Jackson is very personable. I'd be worried a little bit that maybe some of the sarcasm from Yannetti is getting a little close. I might tone that down a little bit with some of these people, actually, to tell you the truth.
I just love that they're using the own words from the witnesses back, and it's like that's the theme. It's just like, you can. It's so obvious now. I think that the theme is there. People are just. I think the jury has to be looking for it. They're starting to see what's going on here.
I don't know how they couldn't. I mean, it's only 3 weeks, and I mean, look what's happening. And every day, I know this is a broken record, but it just gets worse and worse and more pathetic each day. It's shocking. You think you can't be shocked anymore, and then you have this Nagel fiasco today, and it's beyond words. It really is. It's crazy.
Like God I know says, interesting this area of the U.S. No mention of drugs. There has been a drug that's been mentioned over and over again. It's called alcohol.
I thought you were going to say White Claw again.
Well, same thing, right? Yeah, White Claw. I mean, Julie Nagel was like, at one point, she was like, yeah, we're like, it felt like my friends who were 20 something years old hanging out with them, like, we're drinking heavily. Like, it was just like, they were all loaded.
I was cringing when Yannetti was examining her and doing a really good job. And he's asking her about, the Michelob Ultra and where was it? And I was cringing, waiting for her. I stopped at the Packy on the way in and brought in a 6. I mean, I just thought we were going to get full towny.
Wasted. We got
wasted.
The whole thing. You're having a party with your parents' house.
That kind of thing.
I just thought it was weird too. Like, I don't know. When I was in my 20s, maybe even after college, like a year or two, looking for work and stuff, I would never have a birthday party and invite my friends to drink over at my parents' house. That would just never. I don't know if that's common in other people's life where my parents would not allow that. They would be like, even if I'm 21 plus, they would let me have a drink at home. I'm 21 plus, fine. But, to invite all your friends over to have a birthday party, just, and that's like the best kid I felt like out of all of them. But yeah, it's just a different, it's like alcohol. That's all it seems like their whole life is.
Everything in this case, and everything going on in this case about what the Alberts and their friends have been doing, every single issue so far has related around alcohol. I mean, even, Brian Albert, what's the first thing you do when you come home from New York? Hit the bar and then go to another bar and
have the after party.
And they're all, again,
I can't imagine doing that after you driven all the way back.
Late 50s, and they're just pounding with their kids. I mean, I assure you, one thing I don't do is I never, sat down and with my parents and said, let's break out let's break out some beers and just get wasted.
Yeah, that's never. I mean, I can remember going to Cape Cod as a kid, and even when we were a little older with my family and their friends, we all got cottages, and even then, like my parents would be unwinding and partying with some of their friends. My brother and I would go to like the other cottage. You know what I mean? Like we would get away from our parents even there, like where it was okay to do that.
Well, here's a great question, because this relates back to Wendy World.
Yeah.
Which is one of the first things that even really piqued my interest in willingness to do this. So no, the answer, somebody asked if they can call Karen Reed to testify. No, she has an absolute privilege against self-incrimination under the Fifth Amendment. And the defendant is in a unique situation. They don't have to invoke the right. They don't have to get up on the stand and say, I refuse. It's her choice only. And the jury, if she doesn't testify, will be instructed that you are to draw no adverse or negative inference from that. Wendy Murphy, weeks ago, the so-called former prosecutor, I'm not even talking about this one, the former prosecutor and self-styled legal expert and constitutional expert in talking about Karen Reed and testifying had said, well, clearly if she doesn't testify, it's because she and her lawyers know she's guilty, and the jury should conclude that she's guilty, thereby throwing away her presumption of innocence. From this woman teaches law students, by the way. But then she says, if she doesn't get up and invoke the right, which is just blatantly wrong, false, stupid, no, she says, then the prosecution has the right to call her to make her invoke.
Which
Listen,
I mean, I know that that's false.
everybody knows that.
Yeah, everybody
Woman-
knows. Anyone that reads a newspaper knows that. I mean, come on.
I mean, she calls herself a legal expert, and her expertise is in idiocy. Okay. I mean, and then this thing today, I mean, she's
Yeah,
still
talk
out
about
here.
this. This is amazing.
So the defense has become, this is funny because this is the same tired old rag. I mean, she's been claiming that they've been humiliating themselves for days. Meanwhile, they're clobbering the DA. I mean, it is what it is. And then she blames Reed for this stupid strategy. Okay. And talks about her protected right to be an idiot, blah, blah, blah. But then here comes the vintage now entering Wendy world part of the tweet. Yannetti made her sign a waiver and release of liability for malpractice. Okay, that didn't happen. And the other thing that Wendy should know, since she presumably practiced criminal law, malpractice is not really a thing in criminal law. Okay, what you do is you have a thing called ineffective assistance of counsel as a legal mechanism in certain situations to argue that your appeal, that your conviction was in violation of your right to effective representation, which is a constitutional right. But you're not suing your criminal defense lawyer for malpractice because a jury found you guilty. It doesn't
Does
work.
that ever happen?
No,
I've
no,
never heard of it.
No, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And
So you could sue, I'm guessing, but no one does it.
no, like criminal law is not really a malpractice type thing. You can be ineffective. You can be brought to the disciplinary committee for this or that. But the idea that he had her sign a waiver before doing this defense is just, first of all, it's stupid. I've said
Yeah, and I mean, how would she even know
it.
that if that happened? Like, let's pretend it happened, which you say definitely didn't happen, which I believe. But let's pretend it did happen. How would she even know?
Wendy is like a Twitter grifter, though, because all she does in all of these tweets is she doesn't provide any analysis.
Exactly.
She speaks in conclusory terms like some of the other ones with this self-styled expertise that you're supposed to bow down to. She provides no common sense analysis. And then if you push back, and I'm not talking just as a lawyer, anybody who likes to have this conversation, if you try to push back on someone like her, what does she do? You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're corrupt. You're stupid, unethical, blocked. I mean, she's a moron. She should just be ignored and made fun of when she posts stuff like this.
Kristen said $5. Said, how about how Wendy highlighted that Karen Reed will be SA'd in jail? Isn't she a legal advocate for women? Disgusting. I know.
No, she is a miserable, vile, wretched human being with a law degree who has no business commenting on these things. And I only hope that these so-called people that look up to her, who are victims of sexual assault, the real victims, I hope they know that the lawyer that they look up to is running around wishing that a female defendant, or at least mocking a female defendant, if she gets convicted, guilty or innocent, should be sexually assaulted. And that's funny. It's sickening.
Another good comment from Randall. He said, I feel like I've been watching the last 2 weeks of a trial where the defense has gone first.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
It does feel like role reversal. It does.
Thank you, Randall. I got another one here. I'm not even reading them until I post them, I guess. In Italy, I would prosecute the police officers for dereliction of duty and criminal incompetence. By the way, great job. Wait, are you listening from Italy? Is that Franco from Italy watching? I guess so. He gave us euros. I don't even know how that translates. Thank you for the €5, Franco in Italy. Wow.
If it turns out that there's evidence that some of these cops are corrupt, and I would say there's, at this point, if you accept the representation of Yannetti on what the text messages show, that we're long past whether Proctor is at least some degree of corrupt based on the search of the phone and what he said and all of that. Dereliction of duty and incompetence is not what they're going to get prosecuted for. They're going to get prosecuted for official misconduct, and federal corruption and civil rights violations and all kinds of stuff that's a lot nastier than being incompetent. You don't go to prison for being incompetent. If you try to frame an innocent woman for murder by planting evidence and doing things like that, you go to prison. Again, that hasn't happened yet. I'm not suggesting it will, but if it turns out that that's what it is, then incompetence is the least of what these guys should be worried about.
Awesome. We got quite a few listeners. If you have a question or comment, you can definitely try the super chat. That cuts everyone ahead of the line. It's much easier to see. But you can also put QQQ or put a star in front of it, and I'll try to ask it in the regular chat. A lot of people here, so it's not always easy to see them. Sometimes if you really want a question asked, just keep posting it in the comments. We'll see it eventually. I want to thank Attorney Mark Bederow for being here tonight. We got all the footage from today in court. Is there anything that you'd want to kind of review if we could play it here?
I mean, we talked about a lot of it. I mean, if there's anything to break down Nagel's thing, that's always interesting, because I do think she was a real disaster. I mean, I was surprised. I had no idea that it would be that bad. And I didn't know much about her, to be honest with you, until today. And when you're hearing on her direct this idea that I saw this, it sounds a little hokey, but not necessarily. I'm like, okay, now they're at least calling a witness who is starting the process of linking evidence to Karen Reed, whether you want to hear it or not. It doesn't mean it's credible, but at least he's trying to connect dots. And then when you heard the cross, you just want to shake your head and say, get out. I mean, come on, Lally,
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
I mean, you just want to pull him aside and say to him, man to man, do you even believe seriously what you're doing? I don't know if he does or doesn't. He's not tanking the case. I don't buy any of that. He's certainly aggressive enough in trying to, put forth stuff at least and argue and object. So I don't think he's in the tank. I just think he's misguided.
Yes.
But, it's...
We got PTSD Hailer, who made a comment about Nurse Sarah. Did you hear this? I didn't hear this part of it. A lot of times I'm walking dogs, so I don't get it unless I review it a second time. I'm not sure if you heard this part.
This one is interesting because she's a nurse, and that means something very, very interesting, similar to what I was talking about Caitlin Albert. I think that was it last night about Caitlin Albert has a government job. She's got to be concerned. Well, nurses are registered.
Licensed. Yeah, licensed and registered. Exactly.
And, so that's a whole nother level of concern as opposed to Tristan Morris or any of these other people who, if they lie, and you have to deal with the consequences. But from an employment standpoint, this one, she did seem nervous and hesitant, but she also kind of went with the flow a little bit. I mean, I didn't see Colin, that whole stuff. Nobody came in the house, and maybe it's true as far as she knows or not. But I mean, she did put herself in the car, and I think she did say, I heard something about the comment, and just shrugged it off, which, is that her protecting herself? In other words, I don't want to go all the way down the rabbit hole, but I'm still trying to be friendly with what we're trying to do here. I don't know.
Exactly.
But the thing is, by her saying she heard it, if that's what she did, it just makes her look bad, and it makes them all look bad, and it makes it more not believable. Not that night, the next day, when this is all over the news and the body's right there, and they don't call each other and say, holy hell, we saw it. And the friend would say, oh my God, I saw a car go right by there. Sure. And none of that happened. So it just becomes not believable.
Screams cover up.
Yep, it does.
Suzanne sent $10. She says Wendy needs to be disbarred.
Yeah.
There are so many great attorneys like Mark that makes Wendy look even worse. Thank you, Mark, for your insights. We truly appreciate. Good luck to your client. Yeah, you got someone in court right now, right?
Yeah, tomorrow. We were off today, but back at it tomorrow.
So we got to get you. Last night we had a late night. That was
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
Jo felt tipsy. Had a fire hydrant accident. That's what I gotta know. Said I
What
don't
about
think
the
so.
arm? What about the
Yeah,
arm and the other injury?
yeah.
That doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
I
And
mean, it's
that
hard.
gash, I'm sorry, that gash is not caused by a fire hydrant. I don't think so. I appreciate the donation, but I don't believe that either. Mark doesn't either.
Why the arm would bother me? I mean,
Right.
that's a lot of scratches or slashes or
And
whatever.
he's even got stuff on his
Yeah.
fists. He's
Yeah,
got black eyes and like you could say it could come from the gash of the eyes, but there was actually one that had it looked like a punch too. So I mean,
it did. I mean, I'm not medically trained to draw that
Exactly.
conclusion, but to a layman, it looks like a really bad fight. And then a head injury, clearly. I mean, that's not from
and
a
the dog bite, dog scratches. I mean, I work with dogs. I've been scratched and bitten by them, and that's what it looks like to me. I asked my trainer I said, what does this look like to you? He said, either a dog bite or maybe a coyote. I mean, that's what he said. He said, looks like German. He actually said, looks like German Shepherd. I mean, that's what my dog trainer said. He didn't know anything about any of this. Here's another one. I said, Brian Jr., Julie Nagel, and all the people in Brian Nagel's car. I think he meant Ryan Nagel. Ryan Nagel's car had eyes on Karen Reed from the moment she pulled up, but no one saw her back up. Never mind at 25 miles an hour, killing John O'Keefe. What are we even doing here? Exactly.
It's kind of a good point. I mean, it's a real good common sense point, which is even if you believe Juliana, I think her name was Nagel, she just has her creeping up, but she would have had to gone far where the body ends up. She's got to be way off the grid and then slam it in reverse.
Right. And no yelling, no screaming, no fighting.
No, nothing. And they were clearly in a position to see. And I think we can all conclude they were clearly in a position to hear. I'm going to tell you right now, if Lally keeps asking people about Caitlin Albert's cell phone and the speaker as his way of saying nobody heard this, give me a break.
Right.
That I don't know if that's what he's trying to do or just trying to set the mood in the house, but somebody would have heard it.
Somebody would have.
It.
I mean, I think I know I was at a party once when I was younger with girlfriend, boyfriend fighting in the streets. We all heard it. We were watching out the window. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's she going to do to his car next? Like, we all heard it. I mean, that's just common sense.
The other thing is somebody posted a video earlier of what it would look like if you pulled out of their driveway at night. And it was a good point because it gets you thinking headlights.
Yes.
Okay? And what kind, I'm just curious because I don't remember when they left with the McCabe's, Juliana, what kind of car was that? Did they say?
I don't even know.
Did that not even come out?
Yeah,
I modern car, it's going to have LED lights, which are going to be brighter. There's a good chance, and nobody asked this. And again, you always think of things after the fact. Maybe were your high beams on? Were they not? Because it was so much snow. But the reality is, if he's close to the curb, which he kind of would have been, I mean, not on the curb, but close to it, the range of light would be, and you're going real slow because of the snow. I think you would have probably been able to detect that was more than just a black object, that it was probably a human being or something similar or an animal, something. I think the lights would really,
especially if it just happened, if it had just happened an hour ago, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And there wasn't that much snow yet is the other point. Yeah.
We get a comment from Buzzin' for Truth said thoughts that Caitlin took Chloe home with her. We did discuss that. We don't know.
Maybe.
It makes sense though. It definitely makes sense. And Yannetti asked about it. And Turtle Boy went to the house apparently and got a dog barking, big dog. Kelly Walsh sent $4.99. Said, do you think these people understand the severity of perjury? You guys are great together. We look forward to this each night. No.
I mean, I think they understand the concept of it and what it is. Now, again, that's working on the presumption that they're lying, which I think there's a lot of reason to believe that. But they clearly are at least remotely comfortable doing what they're doing, and they're doing it with the feds at least somewhere lurking or having been lurked. So in some sense, it's surprising that this many have been willing to say what they're saying. Now, they may not fully be aware of what evidence the feds have or not, but I don't know that they're fully grasping about if it turns out when you lie about whether John O'Keefe was in the house, that's a big lie. That somebody was asking earlier about, would Katie McLaughlin ever be charged with perjury? No chance. No one gets indicted for perjury because you're arguing over friend versus acquaintance.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's small potatoes, and no one is going to argue it's material, and it's also interpretational. I mean, it could be,
Yeah.
but
It's who's going to get charged with the murder? Who's going to get charged with
right. If
it's
you're
all this stuff.
lying about what happened in that house and that can be proven later, yeah, you would get charged for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. You're framing.
You could be
it-
like accessory to murder too, like like all that stuff, right? Covering
well,
up.
some of these
and-
people could be. I mean, again, we don't know what happened, but
Right.
there are varying degrees of potential
Liability.
culpability if he was killed in the house. I mean, whoever did it would have a problem. But I mean, what if you help dispose of a dead body or a dying body? That certainly doesn't make you guilty of murder, but it makes you guilty of a lot of things: hindering prosecution, accessorizing, all of these other things, disposing of evidence, tampering with evidence, all of that. And then there may be people who are sitting there in complete shock, who did nothing wrong and are witnesses and just
Right.
can't believe what happened, but are too afraid to tell the truth. Or what the DA would tell you is there's another possibility: they're all telling the truth, which
doesn't
you
seem
can
like
draw your own conclusion.
Tommy thinks the Idaho guy who killed those college kids should petition Lally to run for Moscow DA. Maybe. I mean, that would help. That what is he, a triple murderer? How many people that allegedly that guy killed?
Four
Yeah.
college,
4 college
horrible,
kids.
real
It's
bad.
awful.
Yeah.
Late now, is Proctor still working? It seems like it. I don't know.
They say he's the lead cop on that awful Walsh case, which is all
Crazy.
you're doing is helping the defendant in that case. So, and I don't think anybody wants that guy running around.
Yeah. This is I've been talking about this recently, how there's so many new people following now too. Our show and all these other shows and just the Karen Reed case in general. This is the second one tonight. Like, I've never seen pounds. People are sending pounds from Europe. I love this. We got international listeners now following Karen Reed. Leighton sent 10 pounds. Thank you for 10 pounds so much. It shows you that we're really, this story is everywhere now. Not just Massachusetts, not America, Europe. Europe is watching. So Brian A. Jr. turned 23, not 21. Chris and Julie A. said it was his 21st birthday, the pizza party ritual for his 21st birthdays. Also, did they rehome Chloe so Lally didn't call the dog to the stand? Good points. I think you're right. I think that he did say it was his 23rd, and I think that they said it was 21, didn't they? Is he right on that?
I think there was this confusion, but what's the benefit of that as opposed to they're just dumb?
Right. They're just dumb. They conflict on everything.
Yeah, I don't read into that other than you're dealing with some degree of knucklehead.
Yeah.
I don't
People
think
that drink too much, they're brain dead. We lost the brain cells. Furious says his reporting on jurors' physical appearance is illegal.
This is all nonsense. What Grant, whatever his name is, the towel is doing to
Jessica,
who I thought was really good earlier when you were talking to her, by the way. And it's wonderful that she's taking this to the level she is, because he needs to be dealt with. But the fact that she tweeted out that, there are whatever it was, white, black women, 40s, juror number 4, who appears to be a white woman in her 40s, is paying attention. Who cares? That's not doxing. That's nothing. And also remember, there's nothing, the jurors in this case, they're not sequestered. There's no protective order in place. This is not some crazy gangbanger trial where.
Right. No one's going to do. The only ones that would do anything are the McAlberts.
Right. But here's the other thing. The only reason that no one listening to this right now even has any idea who the jurors are is because they're trying, this case is being tried in a closet Okay.
Yeah.
And there's no room, but it's not a non-public trial. So if this was a fully normal trial in a real courtroom, guess what people would do? They would go in, they would sit behind the well and say, oh, look, that one looks like this. That one looks like that. There's nothing wrong with this. The guy is a clown. He's harassing her. And they shouldn't be taking this seriously. And to even suggest that they're looking into what he's saying, that's disgraceful. I mean, to come after her like that, I mean, he's really just trying to intimidate her, and he's trying to build up his little case so nobody believes her about what happened. And I have to tell you, in listening to her earlier, sounded about as credible gets.
Yeah. And she's pissed off, and I don't blame her.
Should be. But if she's listening now or earlier, she's not in any trouble. That's ridiculous.
Right. Have you ever seen anyone charged with anything like that, like in the press in all your career?
For jurors?
Yeah.
For just no. I mean, if somebody tried to speak to a juror, that's bad. If somebody said juror number 4, is Mike Crawford, that's bad. But to say that juror number 4 looks like a woman who reminds me of Dr. Melfi or whatever she said, and seems to be really paying attention, that's what reporters do. There's nothing wrong. That doesn't reveal anyone's identity or who they are. No, it's
exactly
stupid.
I mean, I don't know who they are based on that. I have no idea. There's probably a million people that look like that. I mean,
if you look at Grant's tweets, his so-called analysis of what's happening in the courtroom and the way he perceives what people say and what it means, I would suggest that if the court people took a look at what he writes and got a complaint with him alleging this, they would laugh it, throw it in the garbage, and say, why does this guy have a press pass?
Right. Yeah, I think it's the same thing. He for people that don't know, Grant claimed that he filed a criminal complaint against me like a year or two ago for witness tampering or some witness intimidation, some bullshit. Never went anywhere. Never heard anything about it. I guess the judge laughed at him.
They really need to get him out of there.
Yeah,
yes,
Grant. You said Grant is on the front page of the Boston Herald with police. He looks. His mom used to write for the Boston Herald. I don't know if she still does, but she must be very proud of her son on the front cover.
He made the tabloid wood. Congratulations. Now, I'm sure that's not the way he wanted to do it. Looking like a disheveled idiot who's probably going to get a summons for some degree of harassment or whatever. But hey,
assault. I think it's going to be an assault charge, which is assault on a woman. Congratulations, Grant. Cynthia Lynch says there would have been tons of blood from a head wound in the road. Big SUV driven by the McCabe Suburban 3 rows.
That's possible. And clearly, given the injuries that he had and the amount of blood they recovered, it doesn't seem to match, but not to get too macabre and speculative. But if you envision a scenario where he was killed downstairs, I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm speculating. I'm not trying to whatever. But if it happened inside and it's messy, things can happen. The mess is on the floor. Is that why they had to redo the basement floor, perhaps? Because there's blood all over the place. I mean, I've unfortunately seen many, many nasty crime scene photos. I mean, nasty. In this case, they're actually, all things considered, mild. I mean, the graphic nature of them. But when people get these nasty injuries and die from real trauma, the amount of
blood.
I mean, I had one where a guy was killed and he literally, all his blood was out of his body, and he had been bound and gagged on the floor, and the cops didn't come for hours. And it was the most unsightly thing I'd ever seen in my life. That didn't happen here, but all that blood could very well be inside. They could have cleaned it. And I've even seen cases, I hate to say it, didn't happen here, where they try to drain it, and, mafia style, for less of a mess and less. But I mean, they didn't do that. They just dumped them on the lawn. And I assume that they got them out there as quickly as they could, assuming you buy this theory, to probably try to make it look like it was some kind of car accident. And whether they had already planned it for Karen or not, who knows? But I think that's why they would, I mean, I saw a comment today actually on one of the court TV guy I know, actually we had a case together 100 years ago, very intelligent lawyer, and not usually a criminal kind of guy, but was saying, would you really believe that if they killed him inside, that the way where they would put the body is on the front lawn? And it occurred to me respectfully, because I like this guy, who I'm not going to name, if that's all right, that he probably wasn't as familiar with the facts as a lot of the people listening are, because they don't have a choice, because everybody knew that John O'Keefe was going over there. So you're kind of restricted about what to do. If
you got minutes to act. Too.
Yeah. If that's what happened, you're acting quickly, and a snowstorm is coming, and that's what you do. That's
the choice.
Yep.
The better choice would have been to call the ambulance, call the police, and say, "Oh, we had an accident here."
Yeah.
Snuggie sent $4.99. Said, "I'm still over here trying to calm myself down after what they are doing to @Jess Machado Show." I just suggest everyone follow Jess Machado Show on Twitter, on X. Also follow @Fall River Report. Follow both of those accounts.
By the way, if there's any Massachusetts lawyers out there, somebody, she could use good advice on how to deal with this and make sure it doesn't happen again, doesn't get bullied, intimidated. I mean, what he's doing now, one could argue, is another form of continued harassment. I mean, this claim that he made about the jury doxing and tampering, I mean, that's so ridiculous. And you're trying to ruin someone's career who's a journalist, ironically, from a non-journalist.
That's what he does. He does that. He'll try to ruin. He's done it to me for a couple of years. He tried to do it. He knows it's not going to work, and but this is what he does to people. And I see him focus a lot too on women. It's always, it seems like in a lot of the cases, women. He goes after women.
Well, it does seem like a pattern. I'm not sure why that is, but I mean, the evidence is what the evidence is. And he does seem to have a lot of these Twitter fights with women too. And now it's gotten physical. I mean, so he needs to be dealt with because it's getting worse.
He's escalating. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's physical now.
That's what all of his old friends say. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. What are we going to do? Another comment came in and says, when Bev tells Yannetti to stop, he, of course, today, he replied, "Of course, Your Honor." That
was pretty funny.
It was funny. We laughed. Both of us laughed. We played that earlier, didn't we? Was it the section we played? I don't know. We laughed.
I just, it's a stressful thing, and it was a moment of levity. And I don't think it was on purpose, but he was in that role. And then even the judge gave a hearty guffaw, which is not really her style from what we've seen.
Bev had a laugh. Uncle Frito sent $9.99. Thank you so much. He says, Mike, remember in opening statement, Higgins texted Karen in Waterfall, but also texted John O'Keefe. Yannetti stated this. What is it? Karen, we will find out what Higgins texted to John. That is interesting, right?
Probably. Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those dudes that like pretends to be your friend while he's hitting on your girlfriend. I think that's what Uncle Fred.
Well, I think it's clear that Higgins was trying to do something with her, and it might have at least been some interest in both directions, and whether the DA is going to argue that's what they were fighting about. I mean, I don't think that's an unreasonable argument that that's why they were fighting, but I mean, that does seem a tough stretch to argue that her motive to kill him was
Brian Higgins
outrage after being lovey-dovey. Those aren't my words, lovey-dovey. That was the Greek lawyer.
You're looking at John O'Keefe and this guy, what's his Brian Higgins. I don't buy it. I don't buy that Karen Reed is hooking up with.
They don't really fit for a lot of reasons. I get
John O'Keefe's a good-looking dude. Like he seems like, if you look at all his ex-girlfriends too, they're all beautiful. Like, and it seems like even people I know that knew him, they said all the girls always liked this guy. And Higgins, I don't feel like girls like him. I just look at him. I mean, I don't buy that Karen.
It's a little weird.
If Karen did anything, it was just because she was mad at John because he was flirting or whatever.
I don't know. It definitely is weird. We were just talking about the judge. There were two things I thought might be interesting because people are always complaining about the judge. there's two things that are starting to eat at the craw that she's doing, and maybe this is people like this kind of stuff. This constant sidebar every time something comes up that she's
Yeah.
not familiar where it's going.
Spends more time in sidebar than testimony.
Really getting old, because you have to let the lawyers on both sides try their case. And of course, if they ask questions that are inappropriate, then you can sustain objections. But just because she feels it's going into a path where there could be damage to a witness and she doesn't know what it is not a reason to say, come up to sidebar and tell me what it is. That is ridiculous. So that's number one. And then the other thing she did today, which I thought she should have let go, at least foundationally, to see if it could have gone anywhere. There's no question that chronologically there was the court hearing in September of 23, I guess it would have been, where the defense announced publicly that the DA has no evidence that anybody saw something on the lawn or the grass near the snow. What, you know, by what Crawford, you're Crawford, Nagel said.
Nagel.
And then she gets interviewed 3 days later, or real close in time. And then when the defense starts going down the path and Yannetti wants to bring out that it happened then, and I mean, his first question, I don't think it was the most articulate question about, you know, are you aware this was in the press and this, and she shut it down. I understand you don't want jurors to know outside things about the case, but in this situation, it's directly relevant to attacking this witness's credibility. And there has to be a way where you allow this. If you have to give what's called a limiting instruction, you can call them up at one of your sidebars. That might have been a good time to do it, and say, I'm going to let you do this, but you have to narrowly tailor it. But the jury should have known that when she spoke to Proctor, it was, 8 months after this allegedly happened, but only a couple of days after the defense made it known that they have nothing. And you can't ignore that timeline and coincidence. They have a right to press that. And I think she was wrong to just shut that down.
She does that way too much.
She does it too much, but that was a big one, I thought.
That is a big one.
That was really weak and inappropriate in her part.
I'm getting frustrated by it. It's just so frustrating. And she's always like, hurry it up. But then she wastes all the time on the sidebars.
Yeah, exactly. It's not consistent.
I'll get a comment here. The timing is so tight. John came in and went immediately downstairs. Maybe some didn't see him come in. Can't wait for geofence and Apple phone data. I mean, that could be true too, right? Yeah.
I mean, you don't know where he came in. I mean, the other thing, which is interesting, not that this is a contest of if the evidence is this, it has to be that. But, all these witnesses who didn't see Colin leave, but they all say he was there, but nobody saw him leave. If you accept that, one could argue, then why is it so inconceivable that they didn't see O'Keefe come in if they're not at the door around that time? Because how the hell did Colin get out of there and nobody saw him? Could be the same way how O'Keefe came in. And I know that sounds a little hokey, but you don't know. And I think some of the electronic data would be the most telling. And I think if the defense has what they've alluded to in the past, where they have the Apple Health stuff and you've got him going up and down to some extent, and you can restrict it and triangulate it to 34 Fairview, and he's going up and down around that time, that's about as good evidence as you could ask for that he, by process of elimination, had to have gone in the house. And that would suggest that he either went upstairs or, more likely, from the main level to the basement. He's silenced again.
Are they claiming he chased the car, losing the shoe? I don't think they are. I don't even think they're saying anything about that.
I mean, again, I don't know what the defense is going to argue. I thought they found the shoe when the snow melted.
Right.
So it's not inconceivable, and this is pure speculation again, but if they did want it to look like a car accident, there are times where shoes come flying off in a now 20 miles an hour, probably not. So I don't think they thought it through that carefully, but that I assume that could have been set up if it was set up to look like some kind of car accident. The bigger issue that I think should be troubling for the DA is the belt, because I'm not an accident reconstruction expert by any stretch or understand how car accidents work that much. But if he had his belt on, I don't think getting hit at 20 miles an hour wherever he got hit, which, by the way, there's no trauma on his body where he would have even gotten hit. But putting that aside, there's no way that's going to knock the belt off. And if I'm the defense and you want to speculate, but have informed speculation, O'Keefe was a big guy, strong guy. Maybe they took his belt off when they disarmed him and they wrapped it around his hands and he became defenseless. And that's how they were able to kick the shit out of him. And then they just got rid of the belt wherever. I mean, again, I'm speculating, but
Right.
The belt had to come off some way. And I don't think anyone, unless there's some expert who can explain that we're wrong, would believe that the belt would come off from getting backed in at 20 miles an hour. That strikes me as no way.
Something weird. John Barron sent $10. He says Joe Krowski is a local attorney who rep Colin, believes Karen Reed is guilty, and questioned why she would wait a year to raise third-party culprit. Can attorneys be reprimanded for making burden shifting comments?
No, I mean, he's a non-party. He's not necessarily subject to, again, what lawyers call Rule 3.6 about publicity statements that could influence things. I mean, the key point in this comment is he represents a key witness who's being accused, and he's zealously representing his client as he should. And I mean, if I represented Colin Albert, I would be, I mean, I'm not clearly, and prefer it that way. But I've represented people that have done terrible things or been accused of terrible things, but his job is to zealously represent his client. And if part of that is he believes that he's being unfairly smeared as a killer when he did nothing and left the house, and that's their position, and the lawyer has a good faith basis to at least believe it's true, so it's not putting forth an affirmative lie that he knows. I mean, he doesn't know what happened or what didn't happen. He believes in his client. And I don't have a problem with a lawyer advocating for his client, saying, why is he getting smeared? And I think when he says, why did they wait a year? What he's trying to do is just push the blame away from him and say, look within, she's guilty, and making up stories, changing stories. And his bottom line point is, if she's guilty, then his client is a good kid who's being unfairly smeared. So I don't blame him at all for doing
his job. Doing his
job. That's right. That's right.
And I think I did see on Court TV that he's no longer Colin's attorney. I think he said that, but he was
for
federal grand jury. For federal grand jury, he was.
This is what raises more interesting issues. So when you represent someone, you have an attorney-client relationship, which goes beyond the retention period. And you also have a duty of loyalties and duties of confidentiality. And I wonder if he's doing this with the blessing of Colin Albert, making statements. I mean, saying he testified in a federal grand jury and did this and did that. He knows best. He knows what's going on in the case. He may have a very good relationship with the new attorney who's representing him. And this may be a big ball of nothing, but given that he still owes that client a duty of loyalty, the idea that he's publicly speaking about, my client went into a grand jury and said this, that's usually not something you would do without the full blessing and approval. And, you're not my lawyer anymore. And that doesn't mean there's a bad relationship. It just may not be necessary for them or whatever. But I would be very careful when you're a lawyer making public statements about a client who, for better or for worse, is mixed up in this.
And another comment from Southern Mom. She said, why did the Commonwealth object to questions about the black SUV driving in reverse? Isn't that their claim? I love watching you guys. The
prosecutor doesn't think before he acts. and has no strategic thinking, just objects for the sake of objecting. Of course, there's no reason to object to this, but he also does something else. He is the master of what we call the ouch objection. And all he's doing constantly, not necessarily on this issue, but is telegraphing to the jury, I don't want you to hear this. I don't want you to hear this. And when you object 17 times in a row to the same line of questioning, I don't even care if they get sustained at some point. All you're doing is saying, he's trying
Pay
to do
attention
like,
to this. Pay
he's doing the
attention to
Wizard of Oz thing. Never mind the man behind the curtain. Pay no
Right.
attention. He's just drawing it out.
Isn't it? Yeah, I would say like because when we do shows or even radio, there's a thing called dripping where you say the same thing over and over and over again to get it through someone's head.
Right.
And that's what this is doing. Like if you say it once, you get it over with, people might forget about it because there's so much happening. But if you say it 17 times, they're going to pick it up. And if you're asking the same question 17 times because it's getting objected.
But I mean, to this question in particular, too, whether he thinks he doesn't want to hear this evidence or not, the defense still has a right to try their case. And, you're the one accusing her of backing her SUV on purpose into her boyfriend and killing him. You just had a witness testify that I saw that, or they're going to argue is that SUV in that exact location. And the witness basically said, from the defense standpoint, it's going in the wrong direction. It's not consistent with what they're alleging. And naturally, they ask that and he objects. I mean, there's no basis for that. It's just stupid.
It's a comment. These jurors are Canton residents. Actually, they are not.
They're not. They're Norfolk.
They may be. Some of them might be.
They might be.
They're Norfolk County, which is part of Canton. So the jurors are Norfolk County residents. Aren't you worried that Karen Reed?
Sorry, 2-1 Bruins for those.
Oh, they scored. Cool.
Yeah.
Aren't you worried that Karen Reed could be convicted of one of the lesser charges? I mean, what, drunk driving? I don't see how they haven't proved she's drunk. So I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I mean, the first thing is the jurors are from Norfolk County, which obviously includes Canton, but I'm sure there's plenty of, Quincy,
yeah.
All that stuff. You don't get excluded because you're from Canton, but both sides would have pros and cons about, do I want people from Canton? I mean, from the defense standpoint, absolutely not. I mean, you don't want to
take any chances.
And of course, from the prosecution side, it's risky too, because you may get people who are just appalled at the condition of what's happening. So they're not just from Canton, but in terms of getting convicted on one of the lesser included, I mean, look, the defense here is I didn't do it. And that the cause of death is not a car accident, that somebody else did this and that she was framed. In other words, that she's actually innocent of doing anything that could have caused his death. So if you believe the defense, then she's walking out of the courtroom. When I say believe the defense, if you think there's reasonable doubt that, and that supports what they're saying, then she's walking out completely free. They don't want lesser includeds. They're still going to, as diligent lawyers, try to peck away at them. So you do hear some discussion about trying to get away from being intoxicated and whatnot. But look, if they think she's guilty of backing into him, then she's screwed either way, right?
Yeah. I'm just checking.
I didn't do any of it.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm just checking. You're looking at the scores, Mark. I'm looking at how many listeners there are tonight. This is amazing. We're at I think this may be our record. We've been breaking records regularly lately. I used to get excited when we get over 1,000, and then I got excited when we get over 2,000. We're over 3,000 live listeners on YouTube right now. I don't think I've ever seen 3,000 live. That's amazing. So thank you all. If you're watching for the first time, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. We need to get a couple thousand likes tonight. We've been doing that lately, over 1,000, which is amazing too. Couple more questions came in. Suzanne, I think it's more of a comment. She said they found the shoe that night. The hat was found days later. The belt has never been found. They broke it when they carried him outside. Maybe they were carrying him with the belt and it broke, right?
I don't know, but if the DA is going with the car accident theory, which clearly they are, they're going to have some explanation about where the belt went. And it can't be he must have taken it off before he got there. The other problem is they like to play so much video from the waterfall. And unfortunately for them, when you have all that video from the waterfall, what do you see around John O'Keefe's pants?
A belt.
Not to bury the lead, but it's a belt. And that's a problem. So where did the belt go in that time period if it couldn't have been from the car accident? It's just one of these issues that the DA has, which is why they're in trouble. I mean, I think it's obvious at this point.
It's obvious. Every day it gets worse. That's what it continues to get worse. Bob just sent $4.99. Says, Mark, what do you predict will be the aftermath of a non-guilty verdict for the people in the House?
Well, I guess it depends on whether, not everyone who is discredited and with a burden of proof on reasonable doubt is perceived to necessarily be a criminal and a liar. So just because Karen Reed gets acquitted doesn't mean that Brian Albert, Colin Albert, or any other combination of Higgins or whoever, McCabe, did something awful. Now, people think that there's a lot of reason to believe they did based upon their indisputably suspicious and weird behavior in the immediate aftermath. But it doesn't necessarily mean that anything will happen, that any crime will ever be solved, anything like that. On the other hand, you don't know what the feds know. You haven't heard all the evidence. You don't know if there's going to be actionable perjury or other things. And by the way, if they develop some evidence against some of those witnesses, the way the feds do it, they squeeze people. So pick one of these people. If they get hauled in and they say, here's how it's going to go, do you want to play ball? A lot of times people play ball. Now, the interesting thing in this case is they're all family. So that may be hard to do here, right? I don't want to compare them to the mafia. It's not appropriate, all kidding aside, but they're family in a literal sense. And they may not want to rat out other people in their family. So I think it's complicated. You just don't know, but you shouldn't assume just because she gets acquitted that they're all screwed. Now, if she gets acquitted, a lot of people who think she's getting framed are going to say, see, I told you so, and all that. And that's fine because there's a lot of weird behavior. All the people who are getting nastier and nastier to me personally and have been doing to you for a long time for having the temerity to say, I think this case is weak and here's why, apparently makes me a dirtbag,
bad person.
Whatever. But all of those types are going to say, this is bullshit. Jackson's a sleazy lawyer. Yannetti's a dirtbag and corrupt. Karen Reed is a murderess, and she took her money, paid for these sleazy lawyers. And so the sad thing is nothing's going to change in the immediate aftermath. Normal people are going to respect the verdict. People like me are going to say what I said in the very beginning, which is she never should have been indicted in the first place, whether they had a reason to suspect her or not, because I don't think they've ever had credible evidence that even reaches the standard of an indictment, let alone a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. And if she does get acquitted and she does have evidence of being framed, then she ought to sue the pants off of everyone. And in the process, there's a nasty, nasty thing called discovery. And included in discovery are depositions. And you sit down and you haul all these people back in with all the evidence that you've uncovered since the trial, and you do it. And, part of those depositions will be people you haven't heard from before, like Lally, like Morrissey, those types. The Chief Wiggum, who we haven't heard from in a long time. Is he not testifying? All those kinds of people.
I would love to see Berkey on this. I can't wait to see him if he gets called. If he shows up, if he's not sick. PTSD healer says, do you know of any cases where an OUI charge came from an extrapolation? Extrapolation. Thank you.
Now, OUI, I'm going to assume, is a Massachusetts word.
Yes, that's operating.
Okay, yeah,
same thing.
From extrapolating what, a cell phone or car data? I'm
not
sure.
Blood. They basically.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of times, well, not a lot, but there is a mechanism in every state's penal law or whatever they call it in every state for doing a hospital draw. You either have to get a warrant and certain, you can't just do it. Yes, but the reality is the most reliable, if done properly, of course, but a blood draw like that is the most reliable form, much more than a breathalyzer or an intoxilizer and a portable breath test, all that. I mean, straight to the blood is the best you can get. Now it gets more complicated when it's like here, it was hours later. And then they start using these dubious formulas that we talked about the other day that don't appear to have been done necessarily in the proper manner. And then you get a range, which is way too far. I mean,
that's a crazy range.
Way
right?
too far. So, but the answer is yes. I mean, it does happen. I mean, if somebody gets in a horrific car accident and they have every reason to believe they're drunk and they're passed out in the hospital and they killed someone, you can be damn sure that the police and prosecutors are going to use every legal mechanism they can to draw that person's blood. And if they were drunk driving and killed someone, to come after them as much as they can. So yeah, it happens all the time.
Comment: every police officer I know carries a concealed weapon while off duty. Do you know if a firearm was recovered from the scene? I haven't heard that. I think some police officers aren't going to carry guns when they're out drinking. So that's what I'm guessing why John O'Keefe didn't have a gun on him. I'm just guessing. What do you think, Mark?
I mean, look, they have fit rules under what they call a patrol guide, certainly in New York, and they just missed the breakaway. Sorry, where they're not supposed to be drinking, and they're always supposed to be what they call fit for duty, which of course is a joke because fit for duty means you can't be drunk, and the off-duty cops that we see in this case appear to be regularly drunk. But they shouldn't be running around with firearms if they're drinking off duty.
It's funny, at the Chief Wiggum's retirement party, there was a funny story about a bunch of police on his boat drinking with guns, and they got pulled over by the Coast Guard. Chief Wiggum had to explain it to the Coast Guard. And I guess the Coast Guard said, we won't use our guns if you don't use yours.
Seems reasonable.
I thought that was, I mean, what could go wrong? Drunk cops on a boat with guns. What could go wrong?
Boats on the water, cops with guns.
I was surprised they didn't sink their own boat.
Yeah, you shoot a hole in your own boat.
Some good stories at that Berkowitz retirement party. The one we're missing, though, apparently, is the Higgins speech.
Yeah.
People have been scouring that video too, like on time stamping and all this other stuff to prove that Higgins did give a speech there. I think he did. I think we'll see. Maybe that comes out in the court.
That would be great to see, just for entertainment value. I mean, if you look at this just as an observer, just to see how he's going to deal with that would be get your popcorn ready.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of rumors that Higgins has not only took the proffer, but he took the full immunity deal. That's the other one. I don't know. We'll see. Dr. AB Normal says, what if John was in the basement when whatever happened and the people upstairs don't know what went on? He could have been placed outside later.
That's possible. I mean, I don't think that's entirely not possible. I don't, again, know the layout of their house to determine, would you hear noise in the basement? How big is, that kind of thing. And then if they knew that there were other people there, do they have to leave him there? Maybe, but who knows? But at this point, it's hard to believe that 2 years later, or whatever it is, more than 2 years later, that everybody's still telling a story that generally synchronizes, a lot of inconsistencies. It's hard to believe that they wouldn't all know at this point in those 2 years and talking to each other that something really bad happened in the house while we were there.
Another comment came in, says, if for some reason Karen is found guilty, do you think her team has several options to file an appeal? I'll just say, I think obviously she has options to file an appeal, but will it get heard, right? That's the question. What do you think?
I think it's way premature. I mean, there could be reversible error that hasn't happened yet on something really big. I mean, the general bias, probably not. If she excluded like some of the evidence that she's excluded, potentially, but I don't think there's going to be an appeal because that requires a conviction. And at least putting aside the complaints about the judge generally in this, at least during the trial phase. Now, I haven't read all the pretrial stuff because you can appeal some of that too, if it matters, if it's relevant to the outcome. I don't see any like major, oh my God, she's screwing them to the point where this trial would get reversed. But I find this to be an exercise that won't matter because she's not going to get convicted, I don't believe.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen no evidence to think she's going to get convicted.
No.
Yeah. We reading comments here. We got some people watching from Spain and Europe. It's amazing all the Europeans that are watching tonight. I think that's where our bump came from, was Europe. I want to thank the EU tonight. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Mark Bederow, do you have any final thoughts or comments about any of the testimony today, or what to look for? Where do you leave this tonight?
Surprised. I mean, I don't understand the Nagel thing. I think that was a huge miscalculation. Number one, when she says she saw the car, it doesn't fit with the theory of the case, number one. And I don't think she gave a credible story about the object that became the blob, that's 6 feet long and all of that. And the cost of doing business was all this stuff that all comes back to Jennifer McCabe, who is the single most important witness in the case, because she's the one that links all of these groups together. And heard from Karen Reed early. She's the one who was put up to call the police and remember that statement that really led this moving into overdrive. She's the one who made this really bizarre search about how long to die in the cold, which I think the defense is very confident is going to be at 2:27 a.m. And if that's the case, good night. I mean, that in and of itself makes no sense if it's true, other than because I know there's a body on my lawn. And remember something else too. What this witness today did makes that more likely, because McCabe is in the car when this girl says, I saw something. Now, suppose McCabe, realizes this, well, none of this story is probably true, but that search makes no sense. Everything's coming back to her. And I think that this girl with everything else makes all of these questions about McCabe get worse. More eyes are going to be upon her. It's a whole nother round of questioning of her that I don't think she can offer an explanation. So if you're the DA, was all of this worth having a very unbelievable story about an object, a blob, a 6-foot blob, and an SUV that, went on its A to B to C at a small rate. And then, she says, this is where it happened, and doesn't even circle the exhibits so that the jury knows where she was circling. So I think it's going to be just more of the same. And I think the defense seems very, very confident in looking at them. So if they're worried about something, they're not projecting it. And if there's a DNA person coming tomorrow, as was somebody mentioned, they don't seem to be particularly concerned about it. So I don't know what you're going to see tomorrow or what comes next, but it's just interesting that they keep calling all these witnesses and you still haven't heard from McCabe and Proctor, who are the glue guys to this whole case. I mean, everything that should be explained about the DA's case really comes through those two witnesses, and they're not doing it. And Higgins too, who's mixed up in whatever's going on in the house that everybody's hearing about. And they're just kicking the can down the road, right? They're not getting to the real main people other than Brian Albert, I suppose. And you can't assume jurors aren't seeing that.
Yeah, with Brian Albert, do you I mean, I get a feeling just looking at him that he's kind of a scary guy. Do you think that came through the jury?
I don't know, because he testified demeanor wise really well. I mean, fair
Yes.
is fair. Okay.
Yep.
It's not just
He
pile
did.
on.
I gotta agree
He
with you.
came off very, grandpa like, and very he puts his reading glasses
Yeah.
on. He didn't lose his cool. He got pressed on certain things and he tried to push back and parse words. And of course, some of his testimony is just plain comically stupid about the phone and the letter and switching his phone the day before or after, all of that. But demeanor wise, I don't know how they assess him. But the other disadvantage I think the DA has is because you're trying the case in a closet courtroom and this large physical presence comes in and is sitting right on top of you. I mean, I think his physical presence would certainly project that that's a big dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't think physically he certainly looks capable, and you heard he's a boxer and all of that. So I think that a jury wouldn't be troubled by saying he's physically capable. Doesn't mean he did it, but he's big enough and strong enough to at least have overpowered perhaps John O'Keefe and with the assistance of other people for sure.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Full day of jury. Full jury tomorrow. They're putting their full day in, and we're gonna have all witnesses all day. So, be interested to see what happens tomorrow. Thank you so much, Attorney Mark Bederow at Bederow Law on Twitter, X, and you can also bederowlaw.com is your website, right?
Yep.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you later.
Hopefully, we'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
I know. We're the Young Jerks. I want to thank everyone who's been watching, sharing, all the Europeans tonight. I want to thank Andrea Clark for joining. We got some new YouTube members tonight. Thank you so much for all the chats and the donations. Just going to read off a quick Venmo. I might even play a little video to lead us out here tonight because so much good video we captured today. All right, let's just check the Venmo. I did see some come in, I believe. Oh, is this from earlier? Let me just make sure I'm not missing something. Yes. Got a donation from Amanda. Amanda sent $10. Thank you so much, Amanda, for listening and sending $10 to the Venmo. Also, Virginia, she said, thank you, Mark and Mike. She sent 20. Thank you so much, Virginia. Very kind. All right, those are the two Venmo donations. Actually, I'm going to make sure I'm not missing any others. All right, yeah, I read those. Cool. And let's just check the Cash App tonight. Teresa sent $10. She said, love the recaps and Mark Bederow. Thank you so much, Teresa. All right, that's all the Venmo and Cash Apps for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's play a little video to end this tonight. I'm over Caitlin. I think I'm going to go with what Attorney Bederow said. I'm going to go right to Julie Nagel. Let's watch her to lead us out of here tonight. I'm going to do it maybe
And then
we'll speed it
my
up
other
a little
brother
bit.
Sam is 27.
1 1/4 speed here.
Do you work now?
I do. I work for a car rental agency.
How long have you been?
A little over a year and a half.
Watch the breathing on her.
If I could get your attention to January 28th, 2022 into the early morning of the 28th. Do you recall where you were that evening?
I do.
And where did you go?
To my friend Brian Albert's house.
And your friend, that's Brian Albert Jr., is that correct?
Yes, junior. Yep.
And how is it that you know Brian Albert?
We went to school together, high school. So I've known him for quite some time.
And was Brian Albert Jr., was he in the same grade or the same class as you?
He was a year below me.
And do you recall about what time it was that you went over to his house the evening of the 20th?
I'm not sure exactly, but I would say probably around like
Oh, Jane's commenting. I'm embarrassed, Jane. I'm sorry. She says, I can't with you pulling down your glasses to see your phone. She's laughing at me. I know. I tried the bifocals and all that other crap. I can't do it. I can't get a second pair of glasses. Yeah. So I have to pull them down like an old man. I'm an old man now. Sucks getting old. And now you're laughing at me in public. That's okay. Thanks, Jane. I hope I didn't ruin the show for you. Oh, here's Caroline. Caroline's a regular listener. She says, Rachel, Mike, I've been listening while getting my nails done, so I couldn't chat. A great show. Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you for always watching, even when you can't chat. And here's Stephanie says, wear two pairs like Grunt. I could put glasses over glasses. That would be funny. And pull one down. And now M's making fun of me. She goes, at least he isn't muted. I don't know what's going on. I've muted myself so much with it's like when every time I have Bederow on. I never had that problem until the last couple months. I'm tired, folks, too. That's the other thing. You know how tired I am in my age, walking all these dogs all day and then come home and do a show at night every night. It's fun though. I'm not complaining. Believe me, I am not complaining. I love life right now. I love being busy. I like work.
6.
And do you recall what day of the week that was? The 28th and the 29th?
I believe a Friday.
So Friday and Saturday, is that correct?
Mhm.
And how did you get?
Yes.
How did you get to Mr. Albert Jr.'s house?
My dad drove me.
And who, if anyone else, did your dad?
I know. I don't know if she had a cross.
My friend Sarah Levinson.
How long have you known Sarah?
Since middle school, I would say.
And you're familiar with Mr. Albert?
Yeah,
Jr.'s
walking
house?
dogs is good for the soul, and it's also good for the body. Gotta say, I feel good. I mean, I sleep well at night. When I was a financial advisor, I could not sleep at night. I was always stressed out, worrying about other people's money. Walking dogs, I sleep very well at night. I wouldn't trade it for the world, actually.
Correct,
I
yes.
love walking dogs.
Have you been there on occasion over the course of your friendship?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Alexis.
Now, what was
We're one of your favorite podcasts now. Thank you so much. Oh, and I forgot to say, Mazza Media wasn't here tonight because he was at Foxwoods. So he's busy, a busy guy. I don't know if I was supposed to say that. I hope I don't get him in trouble. No one go stalk him. But yeah, Mazza Media had other commitments tonight. Couldn't be here. How many on a day? You want to know how many dog walks I do on a day? It depends. Let me think about today. I think I did like 8 or 9 today, maybe. Wasn't that busy. But it was. Actually, I probably did 10. Yeah, for a while, I used to do 10 to 15 every weekday, no matter what. Usually more like 14, 15, 16. I did that for like years. And now I'm kind of slowing down because I'm trying to. Like, I'm not replacing customers when they move away or the dog dies, because I don't want to be that busy. So I try to have 8 to 12 walks a day. That's a good number for me. But it's miles, you figure you're doing 5 to 10 miles of walking a day. Yeah, as long as I'm not walking Chloe. I wouldn't walk Chloe. I would send her to my animal trainer, my behaviorist. Say, Chloe, you need some training before I can walk you. All right, let's play a little more video. Less about me. No, I didn't come here to be made sport of.
as far as your understanding, what was sort of the plan for that evening?
Just hang out, have some drinks for
I
my
mean,
friend Brian's birthday.
This is the best part about the soul
just
part.
together and hang out.
These dogs are so happy when you show up. I mean, they're just. There's only one dog who kind of like, he's older and he's lazy now. So I take this one dog out in the morning and the afternoon. In the morning, he comes running right over. In the afternoon, he's laying on the couch. He's like, I don't want to get up. Now he's fighting me. So there is one dog who actually doesn't like to walk. He's a lazy boy. So that's the only one I have issues with. He's happy when I get there. He's all waggy, but he doesn't want to get off the couch.
And when you arrived there, who, if anyone, in addition to yourself, Ms. Levinson, and Brian Albert Jr. were present at home test?
From what I can recall, I just remember Brian Jr.
And at some point, did some other people come in and join the group of the three of you at the home?
Yes.
And when about was that in relation to when you and Sarah arrived?
I can't remember. I don't recall the
Oh,
time.
also, I want to give everyone the heads up. Tomorrow, I have a super busy day, dog wise. And the problem with me streaming the trial right now is that we're using a stream that ends up going to copyrighted content if you're not there in time to turn it off. So when the trial stops, and we got a strike because of it, which sucks. So I may have to not stream everything tomorrow. I may cut out early, especially around the lunch break. I'll probably stream in the morning and then maybe cut out around noon. So we may miss some content. I'm sorry, but I just can't take the risk. And obviously I got to walk the dog. So I can't commit to streaming every minute of the trial, unfortunately. Someone else can, if I cut it off, you'll find another stream. But I just want to let you guys know, because some people were asking. That happened the other day with me. Someone said Turtle Boy is suspended from YouTube for a week. I heard that's true. I heard he's going to be live on Twitter and the Rumble app, so you could watch him there. I don't know if he's on Facebook. He should get on Facebook too. But you can definitely watch. Turtle Boy is going to be live tonight. You just can't watch him on YouTube, unfortunately. I'm going to play a little more Julie Nagel now.
Time frame.
Sometime after that?
Yes. Yep.
Was it that came to join the group at some point?
It was me, Brian Jr., Sarah Levinson, Catherine Duty, Emily Fabiano, Mary.
So he is on Twitter, Facebook. That's right. He's got Turtle Boy Daily Sport, Daily News on Facebook too. So you can watch him on Facebook tonight. That's where I'll probably be watching him, or Twitter. So Aiden will be on at 9 p.m. coming up in a few minutes. I'm pissed I missed Sean McDonough tonight, but I had to do a show with Jess. Maybe we'll watch his show a little later too. It's tough. I can't keep up with all the shows. I would love to watch them all, especially Sean and Turtle Boy. But I have family too, so.
Kent, Courtney Alba, Colin Albert, and then that's what I can remember from then in the early part of the night.
And so with respect to Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Kent, Ms. Alba, and Ms. Duty as well, is that correct?
Correct.
How did you know them?
Through Brian Jr. Yep.
They in the same grade class as you and Ms. Levinson?
In Brian's class.
Class below you?
Correct. Yep.
And so fair to say that you were closer friends with Brian Albert Jr. and Ms. Levinson than the other four girls?
Correct. Yes.
You mentioned, as far as those four individuals, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Kent, Ms. Duty, and Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Duty, and Ms. Alba. Did they come together as far as you know?
I don't remember. I'm not sure.
And do you have any idea how they got there?
No, I do not.
Now, with reference to, you mentioned Colin, correct?
Mhm.
And how do you know?
So on the uhs, they have to be yes or no.
Okay, got it.
So what was that answer?
Do you mind repeating the question?
Let me
Thank you.
ask the question. So with reference to Colin Albert, did you know Colin Albert prior to that evening as well?
Yes,
And how did you know Colin?
through Brian Jr.
And what, if anything, did you know about the relationship between Colin Albert and Brian Albert?
They're cousins.
And about how old was Colin Albert around this time frame of January 28th?
I'm not quite sure. I don't know.
You know whether or not he was in high school or college or something else?
High school.
And when was it that he arrived in relation to the four young ladies that you talked about?
I don't remember. A little bit after though.
Okay, so at some point in time after they arrived.
Yes.
And they
Thank you so much. We got two new Venmo. Garrett sent $5. He said, great show. Waiting for the Higgins and Proctor testimony. Oh, man. So aren't we? I can't wait for that. Hopefully it comes this week on Higgins, at least. I'm not expecting Proctor this week, but if the prosecution is going to bring up Higgins, I would expect it would be this week. You would expect them to bring up Proctor too, but they're crazy. Stephanie, thank you so much. She said, we love you and your glasses and mute button. Love Stephanie. Thank you so much, Stephanie. She sent $50. You're very generous. Thank you so much. I'll try not to hit the mute button so much anymore.
Right after you, is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
And over the course of the evening within the Albert house, where is it sort of within the home that you and sort of the group were congregating?
We were mostly in the dining room area with the kitchen. It's like an open floor plan a little bit.
And do you recall what specifically, or generally speaking, what you were doing?
Kind of.
Hanging out, celebrating
I grew up in the most
We got some
redneck
food
place.
ordered.
She is a
from
red,
Beanie.
like that type,
Just
country
hanging
girl.
out.
She probably listens
drinking.
to country music.
That's
Probably
mostly-
drives a
that was it.
four-wheel drive truck.
Do you recall any music playing or anything like that?
Yes.
She probably drives. She's probably driven a few motorbikes.
Yeah, I can mostly remember it being set up from the overhead speakers in like in the kitchen, like in the ceiling.
And was that being played through somebody else's like phone or device or something like that?
Yes.
And do you recall who was sort of in control or who was controlling the music?
I believe it was Caitlin Albert.
And so prior to, at this point in time that you're talking about,
Mhm.
sort of the initial with, was Caitlin there at that point?
Yes, she was.
I'm sorry, during the point in time when.
Isn't it the Footloose? No, not Footloose. Flashdance lady. She worked at a steel mill.
And women that you were talking
Mhm.
about, Colin Albert, was Miss Albert, Caitlin Albert there at that point, do you recall?
Not at that point, no.
So that's what my question was.
Okay.
In relation to that time, who, if anyone, was.
I- Okay. No, not at that time. I don't remember.
Now,
Breathing
with respect,
deeply.
To,
Suck that
you know, obviously you were
breath
there
in,
when
Julie.
drinking before drinking, correct?
Yep.
Do you recall sort of what people were drinking?
I know at the time I was drinking Michelob Ultras, but mostly just White Claws beers from what I can remember.
And was anyone within this sort of initial group that we're talking about here drinking any more or less than anybody else?
I don't believe so, no.
And during this sort of initial period with these initial people, how would you describe sort of the mood or the demeanor within them?
Yeah, everyone was having a good time. It was Brian's birthday, so, we were there just to have fun.
And at any point in time with this sort of initial group, did you see anybody go to any other area of the house beyond sort of the kitchen and dining room area?
No.
Now, at some point, did members of this sort of initial group, did they leave the house at some point over the course of the evening?
Yes.
And who left first? And
Um,
you know who left first and about what?
yeah, I'm not sure exactly who left at what point, but I know that Catherine Duty, Emily Fabiano, Mary Kent, and Courtney Alba left. I would say, and Colin left like before midnight.
And did they all leave
Yeah,
around
let's
the
speed
same
this
time,
up
or
and get
was
to the
it
Yannetti part.
staggered?
I would say staggered times.
Get off the lot, Lally
I
gagging.
don't recall.
You don't recall if there was that much snow or in the case, correct?
Fast
To
forward.
remember. the
Here we
detail-
go. Here we go. Watch
Good
the
afternoon, Ms. Nagel.
Good
Yannetti
afternoon.
cross.
On January 28th of 2022, you got to 34 Fairview Road at about 6 or 7 p.m.
Correct.
and you didn't leave until 1:30 or 2 a.m., correct?
1:45 around there, yeah.
Okay. So you were there approximately 8 hours?
You can watch Turtle Boy on Facebook
I'm not really sure
or
about
Rumble.
the math,
or
but
Twitter.
I guess so.
A lot of hours.
Yep.
Other than the people who lived at the home and slept there, you were one of the ones to spend the most time there that night, correct?
I'm not sure.
We
Not
talked about
early.
this tonight. No, she's not going to get in trouble. It's funny too.
early,
When this
correct?
was going on today,
Yeah.
I had it streaming, obviously on my computer, and I'm listening to it. And when the sirens went off, my little dog went crazy. And it made me think of Chloe. My dog screams at sirens from my computer screen. What do you think a dog would do with all those emergency vehicles right outside the window? Thank you, Rachel M. Super chat, $9.99. Thank you so much, Rachel. Very generous.
Yes.
And you left late, correct?
Yeah.
And you were inside almost the entire time, correct?
Yes.
So you came in contact with just about everybody who came into that house, correct?
Yes.
And you know that everyone who was in the house that night is a witness in this case, correct?
Yes.
The only time you went outside before you left was when your brother Ryan arrived.
Of course,
correct?
right?
Yes.
And even when you went outside, you stayed on the Albert property, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And you had some contact with your brother out there, correct?
Yes.
And you know that he's a witness in this case as well, correct?
I do. Yes.
And despite having contact with all of these witnesses witnesses in this case. Trooper Proctor didn't talk to you on January 29th, did he?
No.
Or the rest of January or the whole month of February, correct?
Correct.
He didn't interview you about these statements that you're making today until October of 2022, correct?
If that's what it says on paper, yeah.
October 5 of 2022, does that sound right?
I don't know.
It was many months after January 29th, correct?
Yes.
Over 8 months after John O'Keefe.
Oh boy, Thomas Fleming here. Hey Thomas, welcome. I'm just wondering if Kevin's okay. I haven't heard from Kevin lately. Is Kevin okay? That's all. I just want to check in. You know what I'm talking about.
Was found dead on Brian Albert.
He still believes, doesn't he? Kevin's never
If that
going to
was the
give it
time
up.
frame, yes.
And when he spoke to you on October 5, Trooper Proctor asked you for the first time to remember the details from 8 months before that, correct?
If that was the time frame, yes.
And you are good friends with Sarah Levinson, correct?
Yes.
Certainly over the last 2+ years, the two of you have discussed what happened on January 28th and 29th, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know that
Yeah.
Michael Proctor only interviewed you after the defense in this case filed a motion to get Sarah Levinson's name from the DA's office.
Objection, Your
correct?
Honor.
The objection sustained. Next question.
So you've known Brian Jr. since your sophomore or junior year, correct?
Yes.
And you actually graduated Canton High School in 2016, correct?
Correct.
But you've known him since 2014 or 15,
Yes.
9 or 10 years?
Yep.
He's a good friend.
Yes.
He's a close friend of yours, correct?
Yes.
And on January 28th of 2022, you were one of a select group of his friends who went to his house to celebrate his birthday the following night, right?
Yes.
And you don't go to somebody's house who you graduated high school with 10 years previously to celebrate their birthday if they're just an acquaintance, correct?
Objection.
I don't know.
I'll let the answers stand.
When you got there, other than Sarah Levinson and yourself, everyone at the house was a member of the Albert family, correct?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Sure. You and Sarah Levinson are not actually Alberts, correct?
Correct. Yes.
But everybody else at the house was when you got there.
No.
You named Brian Albert Jr., correct?
Mhm. Yes.
Julie Albert,
I did not know.
Nicole Albert,
I did. Yes.
Caitlin Albert,
Yes.
Brian Albert Sr. might have been there.
Yes.
And you knew the Alberts well enough to know the names that we just discussed, correct?
Yes.
And in addition to that, the McCabe's were related to the Alberts, correct?
Yes.
And you knew Jennifer and Matt McCabe before that night, right?
I'm sorry. Can you?
Yes. Before January 28th of 2022, you knew Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
Yes.
You had been to their home before,
Who's home?
the McCabe's home.
I don't recall.
You'd driven their daughters around, correct?
I have. Yes.
And you had actually pet sat for the McCabe's golden doodle, correct?
Correct.
At
Yes.
their home.
Yes.
And so the answer to my previous question is certainly you've been to their home, correct?
Yes.
And their golden doodle was named Bailey, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you knew Jennifer McCabe well enough that you called her by a nickname, correct?
Yes.
What was the nickname that you referred to Jennifer McCabe by?
JJ.
And you knew that JJ was Nicole Albert's sister, correct?
Yes.
Now, on the night of January 28th into the 29th, you saw Brian Albert Sr. After he came back to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
You were on the first floor of that residence the whole night, were you not?
Yes.
And you have a specific memory of Brian Albert Sr. walking Chloe through the first floor of that house, correct?
Yes.
When Brian Albert Sr. was walking Chloe through the first floor of that house, he maintained control of Chloe's collar, did he not?
He did. Yes.
You like dogs, right?
I do.
But you didn't pat Chloe, correct?
I have. Yes.
That night.
No.
You've never pet sat for Chloe, correct?
No.
But you did hang out regularly at the Albert home for years because of your friendship with Brian Jr., correct?
Yes.
Which meant that you have had contact with Chloe over the years, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that Chloe's a very different dog from Bailey, the McCabe's golden doodle, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Bailey is a friendly dog, is he not?
Objection.
Sustained.
Chloe is not friendly, correct?
Objection.
I'll let you have that. Can you answer that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, Chloe is not a friendly dog.
I mean, I would say so, yeah.
It was clear to you that she is not good with people, correct?
I'm not aware.
On January 28th and 29th, while you were in the kitchen dining room area, you'll agree with me that there was music playing for most of the night, correct?
For a decent amount, yes.
And that area of the house has surround sound speakers?
Yes.
Everybody was in a good mood?
Correct, yes.
Talking,
Yes.
drinking?
Yep.
Singing,
I don't remember.
dancing?
Yeah.
And all the action was in the kitchen dining room area, correct?
Yes.
And that was where your attention was mainly focused, was it not?
It was, yes.
Because that's where everybody was.
Yes.
You were not monitoring the basement door, were you?
No.
And you never went down to the basement, correct?
No, I did not.
Prior to January 28th of 2022, you knew who Colin Albert was, correct?
Yes.
You knew that he was your friend Brian Jr.'s first cousin, right?
Correct.
When you were at 34 Fairview, you did see Colin there, correct?
I did, yes.
You believe that he got there shortly after Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, and Julie Albert left the residence, correct?
At some point, yeah.
And you say at some point, that's because you're not sure of the exact time when he got there, correct?
Correct.
You're also not sure of the exact time when he left, correct?
I would say 11:30, 11:45, around there.
He wasn't somebody who was important to you that night, was he?
Not really, no.
You weren't paying attention to monitor when he came.
It's
or
not
when he
breathing.
left, were you?
No. I said no.
You never physically watched him walk out the door, correct?
I don't remember.
She doesn't
You can't
remember
even
when
say for sure
Colin
he walked
left.
out, correct?
I don't know.
You never saw him get picked up.
I did not know.
You never saw.
I
him
wish
go
I
around,
knew when Higgins was
I don't
testifying.
know.
That's what we're waiting
and you
for.
never saw how he got home.
No.
Now, on January 29th of 2022, after midnight, your brother Ryan Nagel and you lived in the same home, correct?
At the time, yes.
At about 12:15 to 12:20, you texted your brother Ryan for a ride home, correct?
If that's what the timestamp says, yes.
Do you have a screenshot of that text message?
Somewhere, yes.
Did you provide that to any investigator or assistant district attorney?
I don't remember.
Do you recall whether any assistant district attorney or investigator asked you for a copy of that text message?
I don't know.
Is that text message still on your phone?
I don't know.
Did you delete that text message?
I don't know.
Objection, Your Honor.
So let's move this along, Mr. Nagel.
When you texted Ryan that night, you were contacting him because you thought it was an appropriate time for you to leave, correct?
Yeah.
How long did it take your brother Ryan to get to the Albert home after that text message?
I don't know.
Was it an hour?
I don't think so, no.
Was it a half hour?
I do not know.
So you have no idea how long it took him to get there and how long you stayed after you texted him, correct?
I don't know, no.
By the time you're texting Ryan, Ms. Nagel, how much do you think you would have to drink since 6 or 7 p.m.?
This is beautiful.
A decent amount.
A decent amount.
Would you say that-
I was ready for it because I was all left up.
No.
A decent amount. A decent amount. She must. I wonder how many of those Mick Ultras she chugged out. I heard a 12-pack. Decent amount. That just cracks me up.
you drinking that night?
Michelob Ultras.
How many did you have?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well,
Must have been a lot. She was all
I don't
blacked
know.
out. She was all
remember
blacked
what you
out.
brought
She
in
don't
here?
remember. She don't remember. I had a decent amount. I was all blacked out. These people, I think all Lally has proven is that these people have problems with alcohol.
I don't know.
Where was the beer?
I either brought it or I don't know. I don't remember. It was 2.5 years ago.
Where was it within the home?
In the fridge.
You have no memory of like running out of beer that night, correct?
I don't remember. No.
There appeared to be plenty of beer to go around, correct?
For myself, yeah.
Between the time
I mean, I just don't understand this. I don't. I'm sorry. As someone who, my girlfriend has a grown son, and like we have him and his wife come over, and they'll maybe have a couple drinks or whatnot, but never in his 20s would we have like 5 or 6 of his friends over, bringing their own beers over to get drunk at our house to drive home. I mean, we wouldn't do that, and why would a police officer allow that? I mean, it just shows you what kind of life these folks are living. We wouldn't do it because of the OUI risk. I mean, the last thing you want to do is be the house that allows some kid to get totally wasted, even if they're legal age, 21, 22, 23, which these kids are, to get wasted and drive out of your house and kill somebody, and then you're liable for it and you feel like crap because you let them get plowed at your house. But this is just another Friday night at the McAlbert house. That's what they do.
You texted your brother Ryan, and the time he arrived. It's fair to say that you
Always
changed your
bring a
mind about
case,
going
right?
with him, correct?
Yes.
You
I'm
changed
sure-
your
I'm
mind
sure
while
she
you were
brought a
still
case.
inside the Albert home, correct?
I did not say that. No.
Well, I'm asking you now.
No.
You changed your mind only after you left the residence and went out to talk to him?
Yes.
You claimed on direct examination that he was the one that said, "Why don't you stay longer?"
No, that's not what I said.
That said that you wanted to stay longer.
If myself.
So you told him that you wanted to stay long, correct?
Yeah. I did.
And when you went outside, you learned that he had come and
I did. I wanted to get drunker. I want to get plowed. I get all effed up.
Is it Ricky D'Antuono? How do you pronounce the name?
It's Ricky D'Antano.
D'Antano. Ryan had come in Ricky D'Antano's gray Ford F-150 truck, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I butchered that. When
I
you
wonder
went
what Ricky's
outside,
going to say on
you
the stand.
saw that your brother Ryan was in Ricky D'Antano's gray.
Ricky. I wonder what
Ford
Ricky's got
F-150
to
truck,
say.
Correct?
Correct, yes.
That's what I
He was
want to
sitting in
see.
the front passenger seat of the truck, correct?
Ryan, yes.
The truck was parallel to the
I want to know what Ricky's got to say. What's Ricky going to say on the stand?
Albert's residence, correct?
Yes.
It was not parked in the driveway.
No.
The truck was facing toward Chapman Street, going up the hill, correct?
Yes.
So Ryan's seat would have been the closest to the property, right? Passenger seat
I'm sorry, closest to the what?
to the Albert home.
Yes, correct.
You walked down the driveway to get to the truck, correct?
Yes.
Big's SUV was in the driveway at that point, was it not?
Yes.
And at that point, like that, I want to go back, if I can, to when you were inside the house, because you had testified that when you were
That
inside,
breathing's
you looked out the
killing
window
me.
and you saw a different vehicle, correct?
I did, yes.
That was a black SUV.
Yes.
And you've testified that you saw that from within the house, you saw that black SUV move 2 times, correct?
More than 2.
So it was at first parked near the mailbox,
Yes.
and then you saw it move forward, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then you saw it move forward again to near the flagpole, correct?
Yes.
And was there a third time that you saw it move?
I saw it pull up, stopped, pulled up again, stopped, pulled up again by the flagpole, stopped. That's all I saw.
All right, and that was all while you were inside the house, correct?
Correct, yes.
And, when it was pulling up like that, Ms. Nagel, it wasn't going 80 miles an hour, correct?
It was not, no.
It wasn't going 50 miles an hour, correct?
I mean, I didn't have a radar gun on me, but no.
I didn't have a radar
it was
gun.
only at
No, we thought you had a radar gun on you, honey. Oh my God.
It wasn't going a very long distance, correct? Each time?
No.
It's a matter of several feet, correct? Adjusting its position?
Just pulled up and stopped a few times.
Right. And as you saw it pull up and stop a few times from within the home, its direction was always forward, correct?
From what I saw, yes.
You never saw that car back up, correct?
No.
You certainly never saw it speed at a crazy pace backwards, correct?
Objection.
Objection sustained.
Sustained.
Now, I'd asked you about the text messages that you had with.
See, why was that sustained? Why couldn't she answer what she saw? This is what kills me about Bev. She sustains stuff for no reason.
There any investigator or assistant district attorney asked you for screenshots of that, correct?
My friend or my brother?
Did I say friend?
You did, yes.
Thank you for correcting me. I did mean your brother Ryan. Thank you.
Welcome from Canada. Oh, Canada. A lot of Canadians here tonight, too. A lot of Europeans and Canadians. Thank you. You welcome all non-Americans. We love you. I love that world audience. I wonder if they have the same type of corruption in their small towns in Canada. You found that you have a lot of towny cops in Canada? I wonder.
And I appreciate the fact that you're paying attention. At least one of us is.
Yeah.
So with what I asked you about the screenshots of the text messages that you had with your brother Ryan, and whether any investigator or assistant district attorney had asked you for them, correct?
I don't remember.
You didn't remember, right? But somebody did ask you for a screenshot, correct?
Yes.
Who was that?
JJ McCabe.
And by JJ, you mean Jennifer McCabe?
Correct, yes.
When JJ asked you, do you remember when it was that Jennifer McCabe, asked you for a copy of those screenshots?
I do not remember, no.
Did you provide them to Jennifer McCabe?
I did, yes.
Did Jennifer McCabe, when she asked you to provide her...
This is a huge bombshell right there. She provided her text to Jennifer McCabe. Why? That's what Attorney Mark Bederow wanted to know. Why would you do that? Why would she... That just made Jen McCabe's testimony so much harder for Jennifer McCabe right there. Definitely, Nagel so far today was the best witness today by far. For the defense, obviously.
Did those screenshots claim that she was an investigator in this case?
Objection.
Screenshot.
You can answer that.
She
Do you
gave us
mind repeating that,
screenshots.
please?
Sure. When Jennifer McCabe...
Why did Jen McCabe need screenshots? They did nothing wrong. I want to know how Kevin's going to explain that one. Why did Jennifer McCabe provide screenshots? Why was she provided that info from this Nagel woman? Why did she need that?
With your brother Ryan, did Jennifer McCabe tell you that she was investigating this case?
No.
And you have no memory of providing those screenshots to any investigator other than Jennifer McCabe, correct?
I don't remember, no.
Okay. Now, when you're ultimately leaving the residence, it's about, I think you said 1:45 a.m. is your best guess?
Big
Yes.
dud. She was a big
Walked out
dud.
Which door?
The front door.
And that would be the one to the
I know.
left.
Where is
The
Berkowitz?
real front door.
Is Berkowitz in witness protection? Where is Berkowitz, Chief Wiggum? I want to see Berkey on the stand. I don't buy it that he's sick. Not buying it, Berkey.
Yes, correct.
That door faces right to the front lawn, correct?
Yes,
You left with Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Sarah Levinson, correct?
correct.
And you all went out the same door, correct?
I know what door I went out. I don't know about, it could have been. I don't know if they went through the side, but yeah.
Fair to say that walking out the front door of that house, you saw no body on that front lawn in front of you, correct?
When I walked out,
None of the other three people yelled out that they saw a body, correct?
correct.
You got into Jennifer McCabe's vehicle, correct?
Yes,
And you were seated behind the driver, correct?
yes,
And the driver was Matthew McCabe, correct?
correct.
Jennifer McCabe was in the front passenger seat,
Yes,
and Sarah Levinson was sitting next to you behind the front passenger, correct?
yes,
Matthew McCabe backed the car out of the driveway and then headed up toward Chapman Street, correct?
yes.
That meant that the passenger side of the vehicle was closer.
I bet Julie Nagel is a lot like me. I bet she got in a lot of fights in her preteen years. Oh, you see? I bet she beat up some boys. Just guessing.
To the Albert home, correct?
Yes,
So that meant that Sarah Levinson and Jennifer McCabe were in the seats that were closest to the Albert home, correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. As Matthew McCabe was driving that vehicle alongside the Albert property line, Jennifer McCabe in the front passenger seat and Sarah Levinson in the rear passenger seat were the closest two people to the Albert home, correct?
Wait, this is a classic comment right here. Carly said, I'm listening and I'm halfway through. I'm bringing my phone to bed with me to listen to the rest. And she laughs. just don't butt dial me. All right. As long as you don't butt dial me while you're having sex at 2:30 with your partner, we're cool. You can watch me, but just don't butt dial me. Please, no butt dialing, especially if you're having sex with your partner.
Yes.
And as the car passed in front of the Albert home, you saw no tire tracks in the snow, correct?
I don't remember.
You claim now to have seen a black object in the snow, correct?
Someone's
Yes.
asking who Coco is. That's Nicole Albert's nickname, not Jennifer McCabe. Someone said Jennifer McCabe. No, that's Nicole Albert. Sister.
Object is the term that you used when you were finally interviewed about this matter, correct?
A black object, yes.
Right. You never before ever told any investigator that what you actually saw.
Maybe it was Chloe. Maybe it was
correct?
it.
I don't remember.
And you also never, ever told any investigator that this black object that you described was actually 5 feet or 6 feet long, correct?
Correct, yes.
The very first time you're now mentioning this testimony.
She is
that
wearing a
this
cross.
black
I'm just
object,
noticing
as you
that. Someone
described it,
brought
was
that up.
actually
That is definitely a cross on Julie Nagel. Is she the third one that wore a cross? You got Caitlin, you got Katie, and now you got Julie Nagel. All three of them wearing the cross. Interesting.
5 or 6 feet long was just today, after 12 noon on May 14th of 2024, correct?
Lally asked me how big it was, so I just told him right now, yeah.
Yeah, Lally, when you say Lally, you mean
People want to know what Berkowitz. I picture Berkowitz doing. Remember that guy that pretended he was crazy while he ran the mafia in New York? I think that's what Berkey's doing. Berkey's gonna pretend he's like lost his mind. He's got dementia, Alzheimer's. I heard he said he's got cancer. I don't know. I have no idea. But I have a feeling Berkowitz is hiding. I mean, that totally does make sense. He seems to be hiding. Has anyone seen Berkowitz lately? Has anyone seen Helena Rafferty lately?
Mr. Lally?
Yes, Mr. Lally, correct, yes.
Mr. Lally just asked you during this trial, again,
Yeah.
right before this jury. That's the first time. you've
Oh,
ever-
speaking of Helena Rafferty, there is a Canton Police Audit Committee meeting on Thursday night at 7 p.m. We will be definitely live streaming it here. That should be fun. Rita told me I better stream that, so you know it's probably going to be good. It's Thursday night, 7 p.m. Police Audit Committee hearing.
been asked or ever given an answer as to how big that object is, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Did you review any report that was taken when the investigators spoke to you regarding this case before taking the stand today?
No.
You've never testified in a grand jury regarding this case, correct?
Correct.
You've never testified in any hearing regarding this case, correct?
In this hearing, in this case,
Besides today.
It's funny that you bring that up. What happened with all the support from the McAlberts wearing justice for JJ buttons? Well, they definitely can't wear those in the court anymore since that free speech has been banned. They can't even wear it outside the court within the barrier there. But one of the justice for JJ supporters can't go to court anymore, apparently. And we haven't heard anything about that. I would love the media, the corporate news media that's there every day to look into that. Apparently, it's been reported by Nick Rocco that Carl Dougal, a Boston police officer, bumped into intentionally. That's what he's claiming. Rocco is Nick Rocco. That Carl Dugan, Boston police officer Carl Dougal, bumped into Karen Reed and has been banned from the courtroom. And ever since Nick Rocco reported that, which was like a day or two ago, I think he might have reported that on Thursday or Fridays. Ever since then, Carl Dougal has not been seen in the courthouse. So maybe that's why you don't see Carl Dougal at least supporting justice for JJ anymore. He couldn't contain himself. Kind of like Grant Ellis, they're all losing their crap. They can't deal with what's actually going on in court. So they have to get physical with women. That seems to be the theme lately, huh?
No.
And you would agree with me that it is nowhere on record that this black object that you talk about was ever 5 or 6 feet long prior to telling the jury that today.
Objection.
You have to ask that differently, Mr. Nagel.
Today, this afternoon, is the first time that you've provided testimony or information to any official regarding this case, that the object was 5 or 6 feet long.
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Who did you tell prior to today?
Good point right here. Amy, Ohio says, new here. I'm expected to believe a 20-something just handed over text screenshots without asking questions. My daughter is 25. Yeah, right. Should do that. I know, right? Again, I go back to my girlfriend's son. If I asked him for his screenshots of his text, he would tell me to pound sand. It shows you the power and control they have over these kids. I wonder why. What are they afraid of? Why are they so subservient to Auntie JJ? Isn't it weird too? This is so weird. They justice for JJ is what they called John O'Keefe, JJ, and it turns out Jennifer McCabe's nickname is JJ too. Very strange. That is very strange.
About what?
Okay, I thought we were talking about the fact that you've now testified that this black object was 5 or 6 feet long. Recall that?
Today, yes.
And my question to you was, you've never mentioned that this black object was 5 or 6 feet long until the last hour or so when Mr. Lally questioned you about it, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you were passing the property, you did not think it was a body.
At the time, no.
You claim that you told everyone in the car that you saw something, correct?
Correct.
And your friend Sarah said what? Or something to that effect, correct?
Correct.
And there was no further conversation after that, correct?
Not that I can remember. No.
And you didn't think that it was a person who was in trouble, correct?
Objection.
Did you think that at what time, Mr.?
When you were leaving the property, after leaving the house at 1:45 a.m. and getting into the McCabe vehicle and passing the Albert lawn, you did not think that you saw a person who was in trouble, correct?
No.
Or a person that may have needed help, correct?
I don't know. No.
And you were right there, correct? Passing the property?
I was passing the property,
Not
yes.
as close to the property as your friend Sarah Levinson, but you were in the back seat on the driver's side, correct?
Correct.
And you were in a car such that if you thought that you saw something that could have been a person, all you had to do was tell the driver, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you tell the driver that you saw somebody who was in trouble?
Well, I said it out loud in the car.
So is it your testimony now that you said out loud in the car, there's a person who's in trouble?
That's not what I said, no.
You didn't mention a person at all in the car, correct?
No.
You did not tell Matthew McCabe, hey, stop the car, correct?
I did not know.
If you had
Heavy
seen
breathing.
a person in the snow lying there, you would have done something about it, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You didn't ask Matthew McCabe to stop.
No.
You didn't ask him to back up.
Nope.
You didn't ask him to check on whatever it was.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
You had your phone with you, correct?
Yeah.
Your phone was working, correct?
Don't remember.
You used that phone to text your brother.
An hour and a half before.
Are you testifying today that your phone was completely out of charge?
I don't remember, no.
Text your good friend Brian Albert Jr. to tell him that you saw somebody lying on his front lawn?
Did I text him
Yes.
that night?
As you are supposedly seeing this black object,
Objection.
the immediate aftermath of that, did you text Brian Albert Jr. to tell him about that black object?
So in that form, it's sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Nagel.
You had your friend Sarah Levinson with you, correct?
I did in the car, yes.
You knew she was a nurse, correct?
Yeah.
You didn't tell your friend Sarah that you just saw somebody lying in the snow during a blizzard who might need some help, correct?
I did not know.
That Brian Jr.'s father was a police officer, correct?
Objection.
So let's move this. Are you just about done?
Apparently, question came in. Peggy said, "Who bumped into Karen Reed?" Apparently, it was Boston police officer Carl Dugal, who was friends with John O'Keefe, who bumped into Karen Reed at court, right outside the courtroom, and he's not allowed back in the trial.
And with this line of questioning, I'll give you a little bit more.
Just a couple more questions.
Okay,
and I'm done.
go ahead.
You knew that he was a police officer, correct?
Yes.
And obviously a first responder as a police officer, right?
Yeah.
And you knew that that was Jennifer McCabe's brother-in-law, correct?
Yes.
And Jennifer McCabe was in the car with you, correct?
Yes.
You didn't tell Jennifer McCabe or JJ to call her brother-in-law, correct?
No.
The fact of the matter is, you did nothing, right?
Yeah.
And that's because you did not see a body on that lawn, correct?
Objection.
Is that true? Can you answer that?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
You didn't see a body on that lawn.
I mean, I don't know what I saw, but I saw an object.
You were drinking for hours.
Is that a question?
Yes, you were drinking for hours. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
were intoxicated as you were leaving that home.
Objection.
Were you?
Yes.
You were drunk, right?
Some would say, yeah.
Some would say, "Would you say you were
Yeah.
drunk? Were you wasted, honey?"
You believe that except for Matt McCabe, who was driving, everybody in the car was drunk, right?
Objection.
I don't know.
I'm gonna let that answer stand.
You have previously testified. I'm sorry, strike that. You have previously given a statement indicating that you believe that everybody in that car except for Matthew McCabe was drunk. Do you deny that?
This is
I don't remember at this moment.
She sounds like Darth Vader.
All right. You told investigators that when Brian Albert Jr. called you the next morning and you found out about the tragedy the previous night, you, quote, put two and two together, correct?
I did, yes.
And when you put two and two together, you did not call the county police, correct?
I did not know.
Not call the state police, correct?
Nope.
Not call the district attorney's office.
No.
You would agree with me that you just sat on this revelation, correct?
I would.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, that's sustained in that.
Imagine
form.
what her
And
heart's
you were
doing
not
right now.
interviewed by any
Oh my
investigator
God.
in January, February, March, or any time over the spring or summer of 2022, correct?
I don't remember the time frame, but not right after. No.
And when an investigator finally spoke to you, it was Michael Proctor, correct?
Correct.
He was the one who took your statement on October 12th of 2022, correct?
If that was the date and time, yes.
And that was over 8 months after you were driving past the Albert home at around 2 a.m. while you were drunk and supposedly seeing some black object, correct?
Before 2 a.m., yes.
And you know, Ms. Nagel, that
Wait a minute.
as of October.
Wait. I can't let this comment go. It says, "Mark, I love you and your input, but your curtain is." Are you talking about my curtain? I think you're talking about my curtain because Mark's got some cool blinds. You talking to me? Behind me? I don't like it either. But I got a boss here and she likes them, so she put them up. It's funny because I had some other curtains I got and I put them up and I liked them, and then she didn't like them and she pulled them down and put those up. So if you're talking about my curtains, join the club, Andy.
The defense had, in this case, had publicly announced that.
Objection, Your
no one in
Honor.
that house saw
All
a
right.
body on that front lawn.
So that question's improper. I'm going to strike that question.
No further questions. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to break. I have to bring you back tomorrow. Okay. So jurors, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it. Let us know from your stand. And we'll see you tomorrow. Okay? Tomorrow's a full day.
All rise for the court, please.
I don't know.
You can stand.
Okay.
Ms. Nagel, you can stand, and then when the last juror goes.
I can go. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
So that's it. See what happens tomorrow morning. The curtains are distracting. They're saying my curtains are distracting. Are they? Oh boy. I always think maybe I could get some kind of screen behind there, but I don't know. I'm just too busy. I'd have to care. Kay Zetti gives $1.99. She said, "Do you think the O'Keefe family is confused?" Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for the donation tonight. I used to do the show upstairs, and the background was amazing, but that's not a good studio room. So I'm down here. The curtain fund. It's not about the funds for the curtains, is whether we get permission from the boss to change the curtains. That's why I might just put something behind me. Who knows? We'll see. But I don't mind them. I don't think they look that bad. I like the lighter color. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a poll on the next show. Do you like the curtains or do you hate the curtains? John Como wants to get jerk curtains. He wants to design jerk curtains to put behind me. Circa 2000. Your curtains don't match the carpet. How do you know? You haven't seen the carpet, Glenn. Come on. Come on, man. Is it curtains? Sorry. I stick with blinds. Me too. I like the blinds. That's what I used to have. We're all talking about my curtains now. All right. I think that's enough. You guys, I didn't come here to steal it from Howie Carr. I didn't come here to be made sport of. I can't even say that at this point. I didn't come here to be made sport of. And you guys are picking on me tonight. You're picking on my curtains. You're picking on the mute button. There's something else you picked on too. I don't even know. I don't care. But I really, you know what I care about is that you're all watching. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, supporting us, all the donations and comments. Thank you so much. If you haven't, please subscribe. Someone got banned for 14 days. What did you get banned for? For YouTube? Yeah, Howie Carr is one long infomercial. That's the funniest thing too, is so we have YouTube commercials on here on our lives, and I always put it to like the most conservative, so you guys don't get like a crap load of ads. But there's always people that complain, and then I just think it could be worse. You could be listening to the Howie Carr show. So on that note, thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Live streaming 9 a.m. from court. I want to thank you all for supporting and listening and sending donations and all the comments and questions. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. You can make fun of my curtains tomorrow night again.